Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, Joshua. Hello, Sister Tenacious. Hello, Fast Joe Corrigan. Hello, hello, all of you. We have 5 people on. Can you guys hear me clear enough? Just want to know because got myself this new headset plus plus mic. It comes with the mic and the headphones, as you guys can see. Um, Yeah, since we're just beginning this live stream, I guess I'll just explain why I have this headset. So last couple days I didn't do a video. Day before yesterday, clear. Okay, cool. This day before yesterday, did not do a video because honestly I didn't know what to talk about. Yesterday I had something to talk about, and I got to my computer. I said, okay, let's do this. Turned on the computer, and for some reason my Mac desktop computer refused to recognize my Yeti Blue microphone, the Yeti, the little black microphone that I got for like it's worth like I think 70 something, 70 or 80 bucks, which is considered cheap. And I spent a couple hours trying to figure it out, and it just like and then I realized that the USB cord connecting the wire connecting to the microphone, it would not fit all the way. So I'm like, maybe there's some dust in there. So I tried to clear out the dust, and that didn't work, and it just was not working. This thing was not working. I tried to clean out the little outlet on the microphone for the USB cord, and that actually just made it worse because when I plugged it in, the light did not go on at all. This mic was dead. So I think trying to clean it up, I tried to clean it up with a paper clip, just trying to like scrape any dust out, and it actually did some damage. So got a 2-year warranty on that mic, so I got my money back, and I got this. This is the Astro A50 headset. Believe it or not, this is a lot more expensive than a Yeti. And yeah, and it has 3 different adjustments for changing your I guess you could say your voice, like how much it picks up your voice. I will say that this microphone, this A50 Astro microphone, it has pretty decent sound cancellation. The Yeti Blue mic had little to none sound cancellation. Little to no sound cancellation. Like the mic was so sensitive that somebody could be talking down the hallway and the thing would pick it up. It was so sensitive. It was almost just as bad as the built-in microphone in my Mac computer. So I was playing with this thing before I got on the live stream, and I'm like, wow, for a headset microphone, it has pretty decent sound cancellation. Pretty decent sound cancellation. Yeah, but it's a lot more expensive than the Yeti. But I got myself a soundboard so I can reuse my old mic. The cool thing, the thing I love about this headset, it's wireless. I love this, and it comes with this charger. And you plug the charger into the computer, and this is what actually plugs in the microphone to the computer. This is what gets the computer to detect and to recognize the headset. And this is you plug this into your computer, and then when you're done with these, you just put them on the charger, and that's it. It has a rechargeable battery, wireless, so I could literally like I wonder if I like when I get up to get something to drink, I'm gonna keep these on, and I'm gonna be like, okay, guys, and we'll just keep talking. I wonder like if my cat wants some food or something, I'm just gonna leave these. I'm just gonna leave these on because it's completely wireless. It's freaking awesome. I love it. This is a really good headset. I am impressed by this. Um, Believe it or not, I started YouTubing when I was in high school. You may not know this because YouTube kept kicking me out and all this stuff because I was such a troll. But I've been YouTubing since I was in high school, getting canceled several times between that time and now. And believe it or not, in all the years of me YouTubing, it has only been since last year that I began using an external microphone. Before that, all I was using was an external mic, or was the built-in microphone on my computer. When I first started YouTubing, I had a little laptop. It was a Toshiba laptop, and it was a used laptop. I think I ordered it off of eBay for like, I think it was like $200 or something like that. And it had a built-in mic in it, and it had Windows Movie Maker. And I will say that I thought it sounded pretty damn cool. I didn't know any better. And this was back in 2000 and what was it? 2007? 2000, I think it was 2007. I didn't know any better. I thought it sounded great. So eventually got myself a MacBook and used the built-in microphone and Mac in the MacBook, and I thought it sounded great too. And then last year, I started listening to I was listening to other YouTubers, and I was like, wait a second. These guys sound so much clearer than I do. Like their voices sound so crisp. Like what's up with that? And then I realized they're using external microphones. So that's when I got interested. Now, believe it or not, the big microphone that I had that I had before the Yeti, the one that I started using last year, that was a really good microphone. And I for that microphone I had a Mackie soundboard. And I bought that soundboard in 2009. I had no idea what I was doing with it, but I'm going to tell you guys a story. Okay, there's 13 of us here. I might as well just tell you guys this story of how I got that microphone. It's kind of a long story, but I'm going to wait for more guys to pop up on the live stream, and then I'll tell you guys the story. Wait, because usually there's maybe like 20 people, 25 people who show up to this live stream every Friday. Yes, long live the Astra. Hopefully this thing lasts long. You should make a product review of your new headset. Maybe I should like veer off into different subjects, like, because like like the way I've YouTubed has changed over the years. When I first started YouTubing, it was pretty much me talking about the news, like looking up articles, looking up headlines that I thought were interesting, and talking about basically abortion and the gay agenda. Like that's all I was talking about. And then oh yeah, Islam too, Obama, this and that. Then I started reading books a lot more, started doing more and more videos on the stuff that I was reading. So back in 2000 and I want to say 2013, that's when I started doing YouTube videos on the books that I was reading, specifically on the medieval books that I was reading. So I talked a lot about the Crusades and things like that. And then I came up with a balance between talking about the news and talking about the books. Now I like to talk about the books that I read more than like talking about articles is kind of cringy. It's a little cringy because you're just talking about something that everybody knows and you're telling people stuff that literally everybody knows. Unless, of course, it's a news, it's a current event that is so relevant to shoebot.com, like to our website, that I have to talk about it. Then I'll talk about it. But like, for the most part, I'm just preaching to the choir. But I do enjoy talking about things that I read in the books that I read because it's just stuff that no one has ever heard. You know, like the things that I was finding in Josephus. That book is so amazing. Josephus's history on the war between yeah. That book that I read by Josephus on the Jewish Roman War, that book was so amazing. And the reason why it was so amazing was because it totally dispelled this common conventional view that when you talk about the Roman Jewish War, it's just about Romans versus Jews. And when you read Josephus's history on the Roman Jewish War, what you find is that over 50% of the book is about the Jews killing each other. And then you find out that there was class war that was taking place, there was nationalism that was very strong, and there were even many massacres that were committed of the Jews by other Jews, by their fellow Jews. And that is something that no one really talks about. Like I've never heard anyone talk about this. And then there's that one section in Josephus where Josephus describes the people in Jerusalem, the men dressing up as women, putting mascara on, and basically making Tel Aviv into a giant pride parade, or not Tel Aviv, making Jerusalem, ancient Jerusalem, into a giant pride parade. And this wasn't too long after the time of Christ. This was going on. And it gives so much more it gives so much more weight to the mind when you read that verse in Romans where Paul talks about how those who rejected God, God gave them up, and then they went off into Sodom, basically. And so here is Jerusalem rejecting Christ, and then not too long after that, you have Jerusalem essentially becoming Sodom. I actually did an article about this, and as I was doing my research, I wanted to see if there were other historians that actually mentioned this, that actually talked about this section in Josephus. I only found 2 historians. I think there was one guy in a forum, in an internet forum, who brought it up, but that's just like some chat forum. But there were, I think, 2 historians. Pretty sure I only found 2 historians who brought this up, both of whom basically deny it, and one of them saying that Josephus flat out made it up. Why would Josephus make that up? Well, maybe it's because he was pro-Roman and he wanted to make the Jews look bad. But the Romans also had homosexuality. So how would it be an insult by the Romans to call somebody a homosexual, like when homosexuality was very common in Roman culture, in Roman society? So it just that argument doesn't fly with me. But it's like but doing videos on that subject, it gives me a chance to talk about something that you guys have never heard before. I know you guys have never heard about that stuff. That's why a number of people told me that they loved my videos on Josephus, and I loved doing the videos on Josephus. But now I'm doing videos on Thucydides's Greek Civil War, the Peloponnesian War, which is also very fascinating. Not as fascinating as Josephus because Josephus is closer to the Bible, but reading Thucydides and how the Greeks killed each other, how there was class war, ethnic tensions between Dorians and Ionians. It's a very fascinating history to have a better understanding of how long these sorts of tensions go. You know, class tensions, ethnic tensions, tensions between 2 different political ideologies, Athens representing democracy, Sparta representing oligarchy. It's very interesting to see how these types of tensions, which are very common, which have been very common in modern times, how far they go back into antiquity. And it gives us a better insight as to how humans have never really changed, thus refuting this whole idea that a lot of people have, especially conservatives, that in history we can find some sort of golden age. This golden age has never existed. I used to believe that there was a golden age. I believed that there was a golden age of Christianity. To a certain extent, I think you could argue, you could definitely make, um, you know what? Hold on, Colonel Quayle, I'm gonna ban you. I don't want to see you anymore. I don't want to see you anymore. You make the stupidest comments. You're out. I'm sorry. This guy's so annoying. I've been putting up with him for weeks. I don't like banning people, but that guy got a ban. I'm sorry. This guy is just, what's your thoughts on the harlot? Blah, 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 this, that. I mean, it drives me crazy. I'm out. Goodbye. That's it. You can't ask that many stupid questions. Anyway, I mean, this guy is obviously a troll. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Um, you could definitely make the argument that there was something close to a Christian golden age, and you would probably pinpoint that to the 13th century when you had Pope Innocent III and they were crushing the heretics and things like that. But at the same time, you can make a counter argument to that. And you could say that the fact that all of southern France was Albigensian, and Albigensian meaning people who believe that there were 2 deities, one good, one evil, and homosexuality is okay, suicide rituals are okay, really, really crazy stuff. You could argue that the fact that all of southern France was Albigensian, a huge chunk of northern Italy was Albigensian or some kind of Manichaean. You could point to these facts and say, well, that a huge chunk of Europe was this heretical ideology really goes to show that there still wasn't a golden age. Because if there was a golden age, then all of France would have been Catholic, all of Italy would have been Catholic, but that wasn't the case. You had all of southern France Albigensian, you had huge chunks of Italy belonging to some Manichaean cult, you had Manichaeans in Bulgaria, you also had a lot of Manichaean heretics in the Balkans. Like, there has always been tremendous divisions within the Christian world. So there really was no golden age. You could try to make a really good argument, and it probably would sound convincing, but it still wouldn't hold weight when put against historical reality. Now, but I believed at one point that there was a golden age. Now, in all fairness, the fact that Innocent III could rally up an army to kill Albigensians did indeed denote, or did indeed signify, that the Pope he wielded tremendous power. But I really think that out of all of the eras of Christendom, I would say that the 13th century was the time when the church was probably the most powerful. It was at its peak of authority. And that was in the 1200s. 1300s, it was still kind of there. 1400s, you really start to see things waning down. 1500s, Protestant Revolution, and Europe really got split up. And by the time you hit the early 1600s, Europe is on the verge of a damn near world war, the 30 Years' War, which broke out, I want to say in 1619, correct me if I'm wrong, and that lasted for decades. You could say, well, that was the 30 Years' War. Technically it was the 30 Years' War, but I guess you could say it was the 80-year war, because even after the 30 Years' War was over, France and Spain still duked it out for another 50 years. I mean, it's insane how much killing was going on in European history. Now, I used to think that there was this golden age and all that stuff, but then there was this guy years ago. He was an Italian guy. His name was Tommaso Pacinotti. Rest in peace, because he passed away a few years ago. But he contacted me back in 2014, and he told me that he was a graduate from Oxford and that he had a PhD in medieval history. This guy was Italian, like he was born in somewhere in Italy, lived in Italy for most of his life, but his English was damn near perfect. Like you would not even know that this guy was Italian. He spoke in a perfect London dialect. It was so perfect. You would think this guy was English. And he told me that he studied in Oxford. And I spoke to him on a video chat one afternoon in 2014, and he told me, he said, there was no golden age of Christianity. He told me that he studied all this history. He studied the Middle Ages. He studied Christendom. He studied, he studied the popes. He did all these things. And he told me there was no golden age of Christianity. It does not exist. It never has existed. And one side of me was like resisting that to the most highest tenacity that I could possibly muster. But there was another side of me saying, I'm afraid he's right. Because at that time, you see, I was reading a lot of medieval text, and I was reading all the good stuff about the Middle Ages, but then there was all this other toxic stuff that I was also reading. But I was kind of ignoring that. I was kind of putting that to the side, saying, well, hey, let's just not talk about that. Let's talk about this other cool stuff. Let's talk about knights and swords and caballeros and Templars and all that cool stuff. Let's talk about that. But then you would read about how, for example, there was this one situation that took place in the Middle Ages. I think this was in the maybe 13 or 1400s. I don't remember exactly. But there was this one situation where the Hospitallers had made a peace treaty with the Muslims in the Holy Land. And the Hospitallers came, they did the treaty, and then they had this meeting with the Templars, and the Templars said, we got to kill these Muslims. And the Hospitallers said, no, we had a peace agreement with them. You can't just go attack them. You can't break your word. And the Templars got on their horses and they got their weapons on, all the stuff. They got their armor on and everything. And they said, no, we're going to kill these Muslims. These are some crazy French people. And one Hospitaller walked up to one of the Templars and said, you can't do this. We signed a treaty with them. And the Hospitaller raised his hand up like that as a form of expression. And the Templar looked at the Hospitaller and literally spit on the Hospitaller's hand and rode off with his men and attacked the Muslims. And that completely ruined whatever relations the Hospitallers were trying to cultivate between Christians and Muslims. And if you were a Muslim at that time and you saw that type of behavior, you would be completely pissed off as well. And you would be also extremely suspicious of the Catholic knights and all that as well. And nobody could blame you unless they were crazy. So I was reading all these things and kind of like, okay, whatever. And then there was this one story that I read that kind of like it bothered me. Like it bothered me internally speaking. It really bothered me. And but I just kind of brushed it off with my brain, just mentally brushed it off. And it was this story. It was recounted in the works of Robert of Cayenne. Was it Robert? Robert of Cayenne? I want to say Robert or Ralph of Cayenne, I think his name was. And Cayenne was some area in France. I think it's still there. Ralph of Cayenne was this monk who wrote a book on the history of the First Crusade. Ralph of Cayenne describes how when the Christians invaded Jerusalem, how there were like all of these people, civilians that were just completely helpless, and they were paying money to the French, to the Crusaders for mercy. Like, I'll give you this money, just spare my life. And Ralph of Cayenne talks about how they literally just took their swords and hacked up a bunch of elderly people. It was like it hacked them up. He gets into like, if you ever read Ralph of Cayenne, which I don't recommend that you do because it's, I don't know. I don't know why I don't know what you would get out of it. I guess if you're interested in the history, then read it. But the way that Ralph of Cayenne describes it, it's like something out of a really gory movie. He describes them as being cut up, their throats are slit, this and that, they're hacked with swords, and really, really bloody stuff. And I'm like, man, if I saw something like that in real life, man, I would be completely heartbroken by this. You could say, well, this is war and this is that, but these people were not even soldiers. These were just elderly people. These were old people. When the Crusades established rule over Jerusalem, they did have some kind of system of, I wouldn't say it was complete equality, but they did have a system where Muslims had rights, and they also had protection and things like that, which went to show you that you didn't have to kill all these old folks. That was just being cruel, I think, at that point. So that sort of brutality, it bothered me, but again, I brushed it to the side. And so this Italian guy talking to me, and he was talking to me, and he said, there is no golden age. So that's why I say one side of me was like, no, you're wrong. But the other side of me was like, I'm afraid this man is right. And then after reading more and more, and then going through the experience of enduring the corruption of the institution of the Catholic Church, and then receiving the horrible, evil, I should say, responses from lay Catholics about fighting abuse in the Catholic Church, I was fully convinced that this man was right. So that, yeah. Deal. I'm not talking about World War One. I'm talking about the 30 Years' War, 1914. I'm talking about like 1619. Okay. Um, the 12th century. Yeah. 12th century. Yes, this. But hold on. What year was the Albigensian War? Wasn't that in the 1200s? Albigensian. Albigensian War was in the early 1200s. So the fact that the Pope was able to wield an army and like rile up an army to kill a bunch of heretics in southern France, that really showed that there was indeed tremendous power wielded by the Catholic Church. What's the difference between Christianity violence and Islam violence? Um, so oh man, that's a good question. I would say that rule under Christianity was a lot better than rule under Islam. That's definitely for sure. Christianity didn't have. You could say that Christianity wasn't as forceful as Islam in converting people, but there definitely were instances of forced conversion, which I'm not entirely against. I think that if you're dealing with people who are viciously pagan, and they're like, in cannibalism or like human sacrifices and stuff like that, and those people are forced into Christianity, it's probably a good for the best. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that those people highly likely will hold grudges against you, and later generations something is going to erupt. I guess you could say that about the Germanians, the fact that the Germans were so hardcore about the Protestant Reformation, and many Germans at one point in time were forced into the Catholic Church. Um, yeah. But what is I would say the major difference between Christian violence and Muslim violence is the religion. Like what are they fighting for? You know, Muslims were fighting for a Unitarian religion, and Christianity was fighting for for the Trinity, for Trinitarianism. And I would say the Christians were nowhere near as brutal as the Muslim rulers, that's for sure. I mean, when you compare, for example, Catholic Spain versus Muslim Spain, I mean, the Muslims, they did the massacre of Granada. They butchered, I don't know, like what was it, 3 or 4 thousand Jews in a very short period of time. It was like what, a matter of weeks or something like that. That never happened under Christianity. You could say, well, the Spanish Inquisition, but the Spanish Inquisition lasted for over 3 centuries. And the Spanish Inquisition was not a ruthless, brutal, bloody system as people make it appear to be. Um, what else is there? Yeah, I would say that, but I would say ultimately it's the religion, and also Islam allows for sex slavery. Um, Islam allows for some pretty demented things, whereas Christianity does not tolerate those things. Christianity is about fighting for righteousness. Muslims will make the same argument for their religion, but at the same time, you can't ignore all of the really just evil and inhumane things that Muslims have done in the past, and you really can't find any comparison to something like that in Christian history. You could find little things here and there, massacres and things like that, but I don't think you can find anything to the extent that you would with the Islamic religion. That's just, yeah. Many of the first Crusaders are criminals hoping for redemption. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Um, What's the difference between Christianity? Okay, blah, blah. The term golden age doesn't suggest that everything is fine in a civilization, but that the culture was at its height of development. Yeah, again, you could, like I said, you could make quite a convincing argument that the 1200s was the peak of Catholic power. But even then, there was a huge amount of problems. The only difference was that the church wielded enough political power to try to mitigate those problems, but it actually never fully got rid of it. But again, if you want to listen, if you want to claim the 1200s for the peak of Christian civilization, go for it. But don't forget that you're going to be limited. Let's just put it that way. But I still will argue that there was no golden, like, I guess that would depend on how we define golden age. Like what would make a golden age? Golden age would be like an idyllic past. Um, and even when the Catholic Church was at its peak of power, it wasn't exactly idyllic. If you were a Catholic living in southern France, it wasn't idyllic because you could be lynched to death. Um, yeah, but this is one of those arguments that'll never end, you know? The Orthodox aren't as accepting of Catholics as Catholics are of the Orthodox. There is even unacceptance of the Western. Yep, I know. Catholics are way more open than Orthodox. That's just been my experience and the experience of other people that I've heard. I think now is humanity's golden age. The technology we have today is amazing. Yeah, that's true. We are living right now I wouldn't say it's a golden age, but I would say that in comparison to over 70 years ago, we have been living in a very peaceful time around the world, with the exception of the Balkans and things that were happening in Southeast Asia after the Second World War. The world has been pretty peaceful. Um, that is quickly eroding, though. That peace is quickly eroding given the violence in the Middle East, given the slow fragmentation of Europe, the polarization of Europe. I think all of these things are eroding, and eventually we're going to go back doing the same thing that our great grandparents did back in the day, which is let's kill 100 million people from the world population. Happy New Year, Guts. What will happen according to your thinking if the James Webb finds out the origin of the Big Bang? I don't know what you're talking about. What, I don't know why you ask all these questions. The James Webb? I don't know what's the James Webb. I don't know what that means. Dominus ZG, Happy New Year. From Croatia. Awesome, man. Dobra, dobra, dobra. I don't know what's James Webb. I don't get it. What is that? James Webb Space Telescope is a space telescope developed by NASA with contributions from the European Space Agency and the Canadian Space Agency. Telescope is named after James Webb. Okay, why is this a big deal? Other galaxies? Okay, great. So we're going to see some more black holes and more stars. Big deal. That's not going to do anything. What is that going to do? Okay, we've explored space more, so you've explored more areas where you can't even live. You've explored more completely uninhabited areas outside of Earth. When are people like this is the reason why people are obsessed with space. It's because they want to prove there is no God. That's the bottom line. They want to show, well, if we could find life, that's what they're obsessed about. If we can find life outside of Earth, then we can prove that humans are nothing unique. That life is nothing unique and that Earth is nothing unique. And this whole idea of God making order from chaos and creating the world is just a myth. And there is life all somewhere in some far distant universe somewhere. That's all this is about. I don't give a shit about NASA. I don't care about space exploration. I think it's a very boring subject. It's a pie in the sky attitude that people have where they want to go on a chalkboard and write a bunch of lines and look like the dude from Beautiful Mind. They want to look like John Nash on the chalkboard and be like, wow, this guy's a genius because he did a mathematical equation to somehow prove that in a different dimension you have a double, and this double is doing everything the opposite that you're doing on Earth. So if you're wiping your ass, your double is wiping his mouth or her mouth in a different galaxy. And if you're eating pizza, the other person is sticking pizza, through his toes or something like that. Like, I mean, crazy, crazy stuff. Like, yeah, how can you like? There was this crazy Jewish guy that I knew a while back ago, and he was like, "Yeah, man, you have a double in a different dimension, and blah blah blah." And we're like, how can you prove that? How do you know? And they're like, well, we can prove it mathematically on a chalkboard. Like, well, you know what? F you. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. Prove it, like, show me like actual proof of this thing. It's amazing that they say I don't believe in God because I can't see God, but they'll believe all this other bullshit. So I don't give a damn about space travel. I don't give a damn about space travel. I think it's such a boring ass topic. The only thing that's important about space is putting satellites up there for our cell phones to work and our internet to work. Yeah. Other than that, I don't give a damn about space. James Webb, engineering behind a first light machine. Okay, so what is this telescope going to do? It's going to discover ET? Are they going to discover like the Halo world or something like that? I don't know. I don't give a damn about this. I liked your first video on Cain and Abel. Oh yeah, that video. That was an old ass video that I did. That's back in the early days of me YouTubing. What's up, Rebel? Mediterranean Christian culture. Happy New Year. Um, they claim that it will go in the past like time travel. It's not going to happen. There's no such thing as time travel. Time travel is impossible. It's not going to happen, everybody. You know why it's not going to happen? Do you know why time travel is impossible? Do you know why? Because time is simply the measurement between events. How long did it take me to carry this can of kombucha? It took me approximately a half a second. Boom, right there. That's a second or a half a second. That's time. Time is simply the measurement that happens, that transpires between events. That's all it is. How can you travel back to time? It's impossible because time only continues on. It doesn't go back. We are constantly in the present and we're constantly in the future. It never stops. It's almost surreal. So, how do we know that time exists? Because everything has a beginning. And if something didn't have a beginning, then it would never exist. If something did not have a beginning, it would never exist. So, if time did not exist, then how did we get to this point? Well, time has always been here. Well, time can't be eternal. Time can't last forever, because if the time is eternal, then it would never have a beginning, because something that has an eternal has no beginning and has no end. So there's no way you're going to go back into, it's impossible. So stop. I'm not going to tell you to stop anything, but I don't read that bullshit. I don't read that internet fantasy land. This Japanese scientist Kazuka Yamasaka Kawasaki, he made up some equation, and he says that we're stardust, and so because we're stardust, we can somehow communicate with aliens, and this is all proven on a chalkboard because I said so, because I'm a scientist. I don't give a damn. It's just annoying. The whole, yeah, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares about this? I don't give a shit. Jesus never taught violence. Um, Jesus never taught violence. That is such a conventional view that can be disproven, but it takes a little bit of time. But to make it brief, um, Jesus is eternal. And the fact that there's this verse in the book of Genesis that talks about how God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah. And it says that the Lord brought down fire from his Lord. How does the Lord bring down fire from his Lord? Jesus destroyed Sodom. And Abraham met 3 men before the destruction of Sodom, and he bowed down to only one. Why? Because that was God in the flesh. So please, before you start saying that Jesus never taught violence, just think a little bit before saying that. Okay. Islam allows pedophilia, right? Yeah, in certain cases, yes. Especially amongst the Shiites. Oh, thank you, Shea. I think if we can mine the moon, asteroids, and other planets that would benefit humanity, mine the moon, what are you going to get over there? What are you going to mine? Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's, Sotiris Bagonis. Outer space obsession is for pseudo intellect. They're obsessed with this. They're like, yeah, well, there's like different dimensions, and there's dimensions within dimensions, and then within those dimensions, there are other dimensions. And I'm just like, okay, even if that's true, who cares? How does that even affect us? Like, we're still here. We're still humans on Earth. We're still doing the same crap we've been doing for thousands of years. We're still screwing each other over. We're still murdering each other. We're still doing all sorts of crimes. There's still good people who try to do good things. Like, nothing's ever changed. Who cares? Like, well, there's a dimension within a dimension within a dimension, and there's another dimension, and I'm so intelligent. I'm a brilliant man. I'm a PhD scientist, and believe everything that I say. It's almost like a cult. It's almost like a borderline UFO cult. Science, yep, like a magister. I agree with you, Anthony. I think you're definitely right about that. Jesus said used violence on the money. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Before you start saying Jesus didn't preach violence, read the Bible a little bit more, okay? Jesus went into the temple and he literally physically assaulted people. If Jesus were alive today, he would be arrested for physical assault. There's no doubt in my mind. He went into that temple. He got that whip and he beat the hell out of a bunch of people in the temple. Jesus was so ferocious in his violence that the Bible says that people were terrified to even go into the temple. They didn't even want to go into the temple. He blockaded the temple. He was ferocious. This man was ferocious. He wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna pray for everybody. I'm gonna pray for everybody. I'm gonna pray for everybody. Gonna pray for everybody. And we just need love. That's all we need. Love. We need love. Love is all we need. We need love. I know this one guy from Europe. And you tell this guy I won't give his name out, but you tell this guy anything, he has the same answer. He says we need to go back to Jesus, and he has this European accent. And he says it with a really soft voice, and he's always like, no matter what, you could tell this guy anything. You could tell this guy that the Third Reich was reviving, and he'd be like, we must go back. Long pause. To Jesus. He says this every time. We must Go back to Jesus. Everything. That's why I stopped. I'm like, I'm not telling this guy anything anymore. He just tells me the same exact thing. They think but they think Jesus was like that. Like we must. Jesus, there's merchants in the temple. I will pray for them. I will pray for them, pray, yes, pray. I will pray for them, pray some more. Jesus, they're prostituting the entire temple with, they're selling doves and they're like giving out loans to people and extorting people. Pray for them. Pray. No, that's not what happened. Jesus took a whip and physically assaulted people. And I like using the word physically assault because in the American vernacular, when I say he went into the temple and he chased people out, you could be like, yeah, hoorah, I chased them out. But if I say, no, he actually physically assaulted them, you get a little negative. And the reason why I'm saying physical assault is because I'm trying to bring the reality of what Jesus did to your reality. So you can kind of feel a little bit of that discomfort, but hopefully with that discomfort, it could force you to face the truth that Jesus wasn't this Starbucks mocha lotto rabbi. Yeah. What's your opinion on Einstein? I don't know. He's just some Jewish scientist who came up with a theory, E equals MC square or something. I don't know. I never really studied him. Jesus angry is my friend. Angry Jesus. Okay. Really advanced aliens would argue the existence of God and would hate our guts. Well, if aliens do exist, hopefully they'll come down to Earth and be like, listen, God exists, okay? He exists. Like, oh, okay. Then everybody will believe in God after that. And then Jordan Peterson will be like, when the aliens came down in the year 2035, they told us that God exists. I think we should believe them. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on the trucker who crashed a semi-truck negligently and got a 110-year sentence? I don't know. When did this happen? Trucker gets a 110-year sentence? Colorado governor reduces sentence of truck driver who was given 110 years. Killed 4 people. 110 years? Rogel Aguilera Mederos will now serve a 10 years. Okay, 10 years, that makes sense. I think, yeah, okay. It got reduced, everybody, so calm down. 10 years. Any plans to do a gameplay video? I don't know how I would do that. How do you do that? How do you film video gameplay? You just get a camera? I don't know how to do that. I would have to look into it. There are elements that are rare on the Earth that could be used in an industry and technology advancement. Plutonium. Oh, okay. Maybe. Maybe they'll have a war over the moon. Like, no wonder the Almighty had to do remedial stuff with those primitive Earthlings. Christian fatwa is coming on you, Ted? For what? Christian fatwa. Understanding advanced physics are good for admiring God's work, but unfortunately there are intellectual... Yep, I know. Hello, Alexander Dahl. Is this mic clearer than the Yeti? Which one is clear? Would you say this one is clearer? Or it's just as good? I would say the good thing about this mic is that it has excellent sound cancellation. Pretty decent, actually. Now, if someone starts screaming really, really loud, it's going to pick it up. But if it's just like normal sound that you get every day, it does not pick it up. Jesus did and said everything that is attributed to God in the Old Testament. He killed most of the humanity with a flood. Yep, absolutely. But Ted, this is my grace period. Yeah, I know. There's grace, but there's still law, everybody. And if there's law, there's justice. Angels are aliens. I wouldn't doubt that some of these sightings of aliens are just people seeing demons. I wouldn't doubt that. Jesus did and said everything. Okay, I already read that. Soft Jesus. Yeah, I agree. Jordan Peterson. Yep. All of a sudden he's a Christian now. I don't know. I get suspicious. I understand. I give people the benefit of the doubt, but anyway, it's been reduced to 10 years. I know. I wish people would look that up before asking me. What do you think about that? I don't understand why some Orthodox people love Jordan Peterson just because he talks about Orthodoxy doesn't mean he also talks about Catholicism as well. So I wonder what the Orthodox think about that. And I was listening to an interview with his wife, Tammy Peterson, I think her name is. She's talked about the wonders of the Virgin Mary. So, I mean, I wonder what the Orthodox think of that, right? It's like I've heard him say really nice things about Catholicism. Capture card to take the video coming from your console if you're using a console. Oh, okay. The Yeti sounds better. All right, because I'm getting a soundboard. I'm using this temporarily, but these headphones are absolutely amazing. I would say these are really good headphones. But I have this microphone. It's up here. I can't use it because I have no sound mixer. I need a sound mixer in order for it to work. So I ordered a sound mixer off Amazon. It's a Mackie, the same type of sound mixer that my cat destroyed. But this time I really got to put like plastic over it to make sure that the cat doesn't, if the cat does vomit, because this damn cat will vomit at it when I'm sleeping. Like, so yeah, the Yeti definitely is better. Okay. Yeah, believe it or not, these this headset it's made for PlayStation playing, but it also is compatible with the Mac. You can buy a capture card or box and then hook up your Xbox to it. Then you click the record button, and you can gameplay. Ooh, okay. And then from the like, how do you upload it into YouTube though? You don't need a microphone. You sounded fine before you started using them. It's not an improvement. Um, it wasn't until last year that I started using external microphones. Before, I always used the internal microphone of the computer. But what I like, the reason why I use an external microphone is because of the sound cancellation. That's the reason why people are talking, noise, it doesn't pick it up. And I think it's really annoying that you're trying to do a video and like a bunch of noise comes up. And I really prefer to have sound cancellation. That's the only reason why I use a mic. If I didn't have that issue, then I probably wouldn't be using a mic. But it does make your voice sound a little bit smoother though. I would argue that it is a improvement. The Yeti. What's with this History Channel program called Ancient Aliens? That show, do they even play that anymore? I don't think that's even on. That's an old ass show. So we got 20 people on, so I might as well. I'm going to tell you guys the story. Thanks, man. I'm going to tell you guys this story about how I got a microphone. So this is kind of a weird story. So over 10 years ago, 2009, there was a guy, I forgot I'm going to call him Dan. His first name was Dan. I'm not going to give his last name, but his name was Dan. And Dan had a tier 2 radio show. Now, for those of you who don't know how the radio system works, political radio, talk radio, you have, I'm not sure if they even use this system anymore, but over a decade ago they did. Shows were categorized as either being tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. If you were a tier 1 radio show, you were getting anywhere from 0 listeners to, I want to say, 20 or 30,000 listeners. Okay, you were a tier 1. If you're a tier 2, you were getting, I think you were going from that number all the way to 200,000. So if you were up to 200,000, you were a tier 2. So from between 20 or 30,000 people all the way up to 200,000, I think you were a tier 2. Anything above that was categorized as tier 3. I'm not sure if they still use this system anymore, but when I was doing radio, I never had my own radio show, but when I was doing radio shows, like when I was doing interviews with radio shows and coming on as a guest, I used to do a lot of radio. That's how it was. So it was like they would say, okay, Ted, you're going to go on this show at 10 a.m. It's a tier 1. Ted, at 6 p.m., you're going to go on this one radio show for an hour. It's a tier 2. The biggest radio show that I ever did was Michael Savage. I did an hour-long interview with Michael Savage. Well, it was pre-recorded, so the pre-recording was an hour. They reduced it to like, I don't know, 25 minutes or something like that. And then I also did another show with a guy. He was on some kind of XM radio. He was pretty big, and I did his show a couple of times. I forget his name, but he did this show with his son. I think he was on Coast to Coast at one point in time. I don't remember. So I went on this guy's show. He had this tier 2 radio show. His name was Dan. And Dan got famous from being a storm follower or a twister follower, or tornado. Like he would find tornadoes and he would just drive near them and film them with the camera. Like he kind of made a name for himself doing this sort of thing. He would go to, I think, tornadoes, hurricanes, stuff like that. He would do natural disaster stuff. He would go there. So he had this sort of daredevil persona online. Had a radio show that was kind of political, kind of edgy, shock jock a little bit here and there. Very typical, I wouldn't say mainstream right-wing radio, but very typical, like underground, sort of edgy right-wing radio. Okay, this was in 2009. Went on this guy's show. We did about an hour. We talked about Christianity and the different religions and things like that. And he, after the show, he said, "Hey Ted, I think you would be great doing radio." And I said, "Yeah, I would love to do radio." I think I told them that my dream was to be a radio. At that time, my dream was to be a radio host. I'm kind of fulfilling that dream now with YouTube, kind of, because YouTube is kind of like radio. You know, you click on it, you listen, people talk. Okay. So I said, my dream is to be a radio host. And he said, "You would be great doing radio." And he said, "I will give you a show." And I said, "Are you dead serious?" He said, "Yeah, I'm dead serious." He said, "I will give you a show because I'm starting a network of shows, and I think you would be great to do one." And I said, "Where do I sign?" Like I was super excited. So he said, so the next day I called him up, we talked, and he said, "Okay, Ted, this is what you need to get. Write this down." And he said, "Go to Guitar Center and get yourself a Mackie sound mixer. Get yourself this microphone. I forget the name of the brand. I still I have it up there. It's the same mic. It's like a Heidi, I think. Heidi something. I don't remember the name." He said, "Get yourself this adapter. Get yourself these wires." He gave me the whole list of everything to get. I don't remember all the names, all the technical terms. I wrote everything down. I went to Guitar Center and I literally got everything he told me to get. Came back, called him up. I said, "I got everything." He explained to me on the phone how to put everything together. What he did not explain to me was how to get my MacBook to recognize my microphone. He never explained that to me. But I thought just because I had everything hooked up that everything was going to work. So then I said, "Okay, when do we start the show?" And he said, "It's been a lot. Again, this story is over a decade old, so I don't remember all the details, but he gave me a date. He said, this is when you start, and you go on from there." So in the evening time, it was like late afternoon or something, I was so excited. First day, gonna have my own radio show. This is gonna be awesome. And talked literally in this microphone for 3 hours. And then the next day I did the same thing, and the next day I did the same thing, and I really believed that I was a radio host. Like I was doing the radio job now. This is awesome. But then I thought, wait, are people even listening to me? Where are the callers? Where's like what the hell, like what's going on? So I talked to this guy on the phone and I said, like, how do I know if people are even listening? Can I get callers? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And he began to tell me about how, like, I began to see another side to this dude because he started saying, "Well, Ted, on this one part of your show, you compared like pro-abortion people to Nazis or something like that." And he's like, "That's too extreme of a statement. You can't say that, blah, 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 blah." And he's like, "You can get sued for that." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you can get sued for this." And he said everything that you say, you have to say before it, "in my opinion." Because if you don't say "in my opinion," then they can sue you. And I was like, I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." And again, you have to remember, I was like 18 years old at the time. Okay. I didn't know anything. Okay. So, and then I say, "Well, I've done like, I think I said something like, I've done like 4 or 5 episodes and I haven't been saying that at all." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to have to delete those episodes." And then he says, "In fact, Ted, just to be real with you, you haven't been talking to anybody." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you haven't been talking." I think this dude was drunk because he was being way too honest with me. He's like, "You have not been talking to anybody. Nobody has been listening to you." And I'm like, "Wait, I thought this whole time that I was live and you connected me to some server and you did all this stuff. And he's like, no, you weren't talking to anybody. You had no show. And it was at that point I felt so, I think I was too young to like fully understand what was happening and to fully process what was happening. But I felt very violated. Like I felt terrible actually. I felt like I was being bullied, to be honest with you. Like I was lied to, like what the hell? So I ended the conversation with him and I never talked to him again after that. Now looking back, I would say that this guy was running some kind of a scam. I think that he was telling a bunch of people that he will give them a show, and then they think they're on a show, and then he could sort of like advertise himself as running this big network. I think maybe that was the plan. I don't know. But I didn't talk to him for after that and never again. And then he sent us an email saying, "Hey, where's Ted?" And then we wrote him back saying, "Ted, like hasn't heard from you or something like that." And this Dan guy said, "Well, I almost died. I got testicle cancer." And we didn't respond to him, and that was the last I ever heard from that lunatic. But I still got that mic. So last year I thought, I'm going to figure out how to use that damn microphone. And I spent a couple of hours figuring out how to use it and how to get my Mac to recognize it. And I thought, you know what? Even though that guy was a scoundrel, I will say that the mic was pretty damn good. So I don't regret getting that mic. I don't. It's a really good mic. The mic still works. It's just the sound mixer broke. Now there was another situation that I got myself into that was kind of similar. There was a guy, oh man, I forgot his name, but he ran this radio thing. It was like Red Blood Radio or something like that. Red State Radio or something like that. I don't remember. But I went on this guy's show and him and his wife were running it, and then they said, "Hey, do you want to have a?" They did the same thing. Like, "Hey, do you want to have a show?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, "No." And then they're like, "Well, could you just do like an hour segment for us, and then send us the segment?" And I was like, "Okay, fine, I can do that." And then they said, "Okay." And the guy said, "Well, do the hour." This was back in like 2000 and what was this? It's like 2014, 2015, I think. And he said, "Okay, do the segment, and then but you have to process the recording through this software." And he got me the software. I didn't have to pay for it. He got me the software. He's like, "You have to process it through this software and then send it to me via email." I was like, "Oh God, this is such a..." So I did the segment and then I recorded it. Okay, I recorded the segment, put it through this thing. It took like an hour to process this whole file. And then it takes another hour to literally send this thing via email because I had to process the file to fit into an email because there's, the email only allows you a certain size for for sending a big file. So I had to process the file for the email. So it took me like 3 or 4 hours to do this. And I was doing this, I did it one time and then he's like, "Oh, they wanted more." And I kept doing it for them. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I put my foot down. So I cannot do this anymore. This is just draining my time. I don't want to do this. I got articles to write. I was writing a book at that time. I was doing a documentary. Like, I don't want to do this, and I just stopped doing it. And I wrote him and I said, "Listen, it was nice working with you, but I don't want to do this anymore. This is just taking too much of my time." So I want to say like a week after that, there was like this huge barrage of emails that I started getting from other people that also did things that were people that were doing the same exact thing that I was doing for this radio station, this radio show. And what I learned through these emails was that there was no radio station and that all the people that they told that they would have a show with them were lied to. They said, basically, they told all these people, "Do a segment for us and we'll air you." And they would tell us, "Oh, we got like and these were conservative Republican people, Trump voters, okay?" And they would say like, "Oh, we got like 45,000 listeners or something." What was it? It wasn't even that. It was like a huge number of listeners, tens of thousands of listeners, and we'll get this out and this out and that out or whatever. we're on 300 stations. I mean, they'd say similar things like that, not exactly like that, but they would give this huge exaggerated number for themselves. And there were people who exposed this group, and they said we were lied to. There were no shows. There was no audience. It was all bullshit. So that was the, and I'm like, you know what? I'm never doing this again. Never. I'll do interviews for people. Like they want to, I'll get on their show and do an interview, but I will never, ever, ever fill in for anybody, be a substitute for a show. I've done that before. I will never do a segment for, never. Like if you want to talk to me, talk to me. But I ain't doing no homework for you. It's all bull crap. It's all bull crap. I had a friend who wanted me to, she thought that she could help me by connecting me with this Christian marketing expert. And she's like, I really want you to talk to this guy. And I really didn't want to do it. And this was back in 2016, I think. And she's like, I really want to talk to you. I really want you to talk to this guy, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then so she calls me up at like 9 a.m. and she's like, Ted, this guy's on the line. His name was Mark. She's like, oh, Mark's on the line. I'm like, oh, God. So Mark, it was a whole conference call with other people also wanting the marketing advice from this Mark guy. And it turned out that this Mark guy, he acted more like a marketing cult than anything else. And he would tell people what to do. He would tell people how to like better their business or whatever. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Is this guy going to help me? Yes or no? And she said, well, come back to the next conference call. So I got on the next conference call and I was like, hey, Mark, are you going to help me or not? And he didn't like that. And he said, well, you're asking the wrong questions, Theodore. What you should be asking is how can you better your organization? How can you better? So I said, yeah, I don't want, I eventually told this woman, I said, I don't want to talk to this guy anymore. He's a BS artist. And because the last thing he told us was that he was going to organize this conference at a hotel, and that he was going to take the logos of all of our organizations, put them on a giant poster, and then he's going to have investors come over and say, look at all of the companies that I'm representing as a marketer, invest in me. And he would take that money and we would get nothing out of it. But we would have, according to him, the benefit of having our logos on his amazing poster while he gets money. So I have seen all of the nitty gritty shit in this thing called American Christianity. I've seen it. Scammers, bullshit artists, manipulators, sexual predators. I've seen it. That's why I don't care much about anything. Jordan Peterson, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Because there's somebody behind everybody. There's money behind everybody. And when you see somebody becoming super, super duper famous, there's somebody behind them. And he may not even know it. That's the thing. If somebody's super famous and you say, well, who's behind you? More than likely, they're going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're not necessarily lying. Because a lot of times when people fund you and help you get famous, you don't even know it. All you know is, well, these nice people are giving me money. You don't know why they're giving you money. You don't know why. You may not necessarily know why. They may never even tell you their motive. They may just say, well, we really like your work. We're going to give you, here's $75,000. That's how it works in this business, by the way. Some rich person identifies you, likes what you have to say, or likes how you talk, sees that you can be effectively used. Okay, here's 75 grand. Here's 100 grand. Oh, wow. Thank you, sir. And they let you just go off. They let you go off because they think that you're just going to say, or they're hoping that you're just going to say what you want what they want you to say. Once you start breaking away from what they like, from the narrative that they like, they'll warn you and they'll say, well, we're not going to give you money anymore if you keep doing this. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Then at that point, then that's when you should know that you're being controlled. So there's just a lot of bullcrap out there, and yeah. I don't know what you're asking, Adil. that shock of the radio thing was like equal to a relation. I don't know what you're talking about. Do you like purposely ask ridiculous questions sometimes? I don't know. It sounds like a joke. It sounded like, I don't know, man. It sounded like it was just crazy. It was just a very crazy experience, man. When is the last time you went to church? I'm not judging. Yes, you are. I don't know who's Betty White. Who's Betty White? Let me Google another idol that people have so I can scrutinize it. Oh, who cares about this old hag? I don't care about that old hag. Ted is blackpilled on Christianity. I'm kind of blackpilled on much of anything. Lying scammers claim to be Christians are universal. There's a lot of that, but there's so much of that goes on. That's all Judge Theodore? Why would you want to judge me for? Why would you want to judge me for? If you want to judge me, Anthony, you can come on the show and we can have another debate. Yeah, that's how I got this microphone. That's how I got this microphone. So not this one, but the one up there. You're kidding. Okay. Anyway, it wasn't like a breakup. It was just weird that this person would have you come on and say, "Here's this show," and you believe him, and then he says, "Oh, you weren't talking to anybody this whole time." Like that's a really scoundrel move right there. But I don't regret getting the microphone. John Seversike. What kind of name is that? Is that like Polish or something? Czech? Our Balkan friends aren't here today. No wonder it's kind of a boring day today. Maybe they're celebrating the New Year's. How was 2021 in your view? 2021 was it was kind of a boring decade, but I will say that I greatly enjoyed doing videos in 2021 because I got to talk about Josephus, and I think that was like the highlight of all the work that I've done in 2021 was talking about Josephus. Um, but I think that 2021 was an okay year. It wasn't as crazy and it wasn't as chaotic as last year. Oh, Norwegian. Oh, cool. Um, it wasn't as crazy as last year. It was a lot more calm because human beings have an amazing ability to adapt to anything, actually. We can, like, you could put people in a concentration camp and make them do slave labor, and it's going to suck for the first year, but people will get used to it. People will make up songs, people will make up dishes for whatever food they have. People will develop an entire culture around their own miseries. It is extraordinary how humans have this amazing ability to adapt to anything. Never underestimate the tenacious capacity for the human being to adapt. It is amazing. Why do you think African Americans to this day are still eating dishes that their ancestor ate during the time of slavery? Why? They were slaves on the plantation and they were allowed a certain amount of food by the slave master. They were allowed to have gardens by the slave master, and they grew collard greens and they grew okra and they grew some other vegetables, and their dishes revolved around these ingredients. And to this day, soul food consists of what? Collard greens, okra, cornbread, the very types of ingredients and dishes that they ate during slave times, or at least dishes that are very comparable to what they ate in slave times. Why would they still be eating food or dishes that they ate when they were slaves, when their ancestors were slaves? Easy. It's because their ancestors, when they were slaves, they probably weren't as miserable as people may think they were. There was definitely abuse that went on, but I think that to a great extent, they were slaves who loved their masters and they lived on plantations and they did the work and they got used to it and they adapted and they learned how to have fun and they sang songs, they made songs, they composed music when they were slaves, they came up with entire dishes when they were slaves, they came up with gospel songs when they were slaves. They learned how to love their lives as slaves. Uh, and I guess that even when they got freedom, there were still things about it that they still kept and that they still uh, loved. Um, yeah, you would think like, okay, the slave master allowed us to have like 2 pounds of meat. That's what I read. Right? Slaves were allowed to have at least 2 pounds of week, 2 pounds of meat per week by the slave master. You would think that like they would just go nuts after getting freedom and they would just eat whatever they wanted, but no, like they still kept a lot of those old dishes. So it's almost like it's kind of like Russians who lived under the Soviet Union or East Germans who lived under the Soviet Union. There's a lot of nostalgia that these people have, especially old people who lived in the Soviet Union. They will experience nostalgia and they will seek out canned dishes or canned foods that they ate when they were living in the Soviet Union, or they would seek out certain dishes and certain drinks that they enjoyed in the Soviet Union. So people have this amazing ability to adapt, and when they adapt to certain conditions, when they escape those conditions, no matter how bad they may be, there will likely be aspects about those conditions or about that hard life that people will miss even after getting freedom. You have people, for example, who have lost limbs, and they will rank as being just as happy as somebody who has all their limbs together. Uh, Humans have this amazing ability to psychologically adapt to any environment. You could put people in the gulag, and as shitty as an environment as that may be, people will adapt to the gulag. You know, so yeah. But to answer your question, Mr. Grand Celestial Knight, I have not gone to church since the summer of 2019. To be more exact, since the fall of 2019. That was the last time I went to church. Yeah. People generally resist change, but if the change is inevitable and it's futile for you to even resist, then you're just going to have to accept the change, and people will. You can relate. Okay. You have to understand. I'm pretty sure you know this already. People are just like, why aren't you going to church? Why aren't you going to church? And it's just driving me crazy. And it's like, because I don't want to be honest with you. I don't want to. I don't want to go to church. Is that a sufficient enough answer for you? I don't want to go to church. I'm not talking to you, Grand Celestial Knight. But I now that you've clarified that with me, okay, because I assumed that you were just like the others. But I don't want to go to church. That's it. I don't want to go to church. I don't want to go to some place where some guy's going to tell me to pray for my LGBT brother. And don't judge the LGBT. Don't judge LGBT people. But if some priest wants to sexually harass some guy, that's fine. You can't judge him either. Yeah, yeah. Well, kiss my ass. Well, not literally, please. Um, happy. You've enjoyed most of my videos. That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad to know that. For the most part, very good content. I'm glad to know that. You can let me know what you don't like, because you say it's for the most part good. But hey, I'm glad that you liked it. I understand that not everything I'm going to say is going to be to people's liking, and that's fine. That's fine. There's always going to be disagreement. And on my part, there's always going to be room for improvement, right? I'm going to always learn new things. I'm always going to be correcting myself. I'm going to find new things. Priests don't sexually abuse people. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. May God bless the Orthodox Church. God bless them. Happy New Year, Scandinavian Sunset. A lot of black culture is a variation of Southern Anglo-Prot culture. True. Poor blacks and poor whites were cooking these very dishes, but at the same time, these dishes also were like the dishes that African Americans were making were done when they were slaves, and they were limited by what they were allowed to have when they were slaves. So that's why I say that. How come you don't talk about the Great Reset much? Because for one thing, I did one video on the Great Reset. How many videos do you think I should do on the Great Reset? What's the number of videos you would like me to do? 10 videos? 5 videos? 12 videos? What is the number? That's the first thing I have to say. And secondly, the reason why I'm not interested in talking about it is because it's irrelevant. The Great Reset is irrelevant because, for one thing, the World Economic Forum has numerous times in its history come up with these grand innovative titles for some new era, and they would come up with all these different ideas for these little titles that they would have for these new eras that they believed were going to come, and no one ever listened to these suggestions. Nobody ever, like, no government has like submitted or acquiesced to the World Economic Forum. Like, what power does the World Economic Forum have? Yeah, sure, there's a lot of rich people and powerful people who go on there, sure, but is America submitting to the demands of the Great Reset? Or is the meat industry going to go out and then we're just going to not be eating meat anymore? Are we just going to destroy the constitutionally established idea of private property? Are we going to have no private property? Are any of these things happening? Are we destroying private property? Are we destroying meat consumption? What's going to happen? So that's the thing. That's why I don't like. Why should I talk about something that isn't really even manifesting itself? Like, the reason why I talk so much about the German revival, the Turkish revival, the Japanese revival is because we're actually seeing these things happening in real time, albeit they are not happening extremely quickly, but they're happening at a substantial pace. And every single year there are new developments to this phenomena of Japanese, you know, revitalizing the militaries of Japan, Germany, and Turkey. We're seeing Turkey expanding territory. We're seeing Turkey expanding its military presence. We're seeing Japan boosting up its military capacity. We're seeing Germany doing the same exact thing. Like, these things are actually happening in real time. Like, old empires that America and the Allies went to war with. I mean, I know America never went to war with Turkey, but England did. Old countries, old powers that America and the Allies went to war with in the past, they're coming back. I mean, that to me is way more significant than something that every single conservative was talking about, and me doing a video about it is just going to be me literally repeating what other people have been saying, preaching to the choir, and talking about something that's not even manifesting itself. So that's why I don't that's why I hope that answers your question. Yeah, that was back then. Building back better, but see, but even with the building back, but what does the building back better thing have to do with the World Economic Forum? Like, did the World Economic Forum tell Biden to do that? Can you bridge some sort of connection between Biden's great infrastructure policy and the World Economic Forum? And the other thing is that has the Build Back Better, has that even been passed? I mean, because I know that it wasn't getting passed because some guy in West Virginia said no to it. So if some guy in West Virginia can cripple this entire innovation, then I don't really see what you're like. It doesn't really seem like it's much of a conspiracy, because like one guy can take it down, Manchin or whatever his name is. So I just don't see it. You know what I mean? Here's the thing: is when conservatives are all like flapping their lips about one thing, that's when I don't listen. Honest to God, I will look into it, because they may be right. Maybe 1 out of 10 times I'm wrong about this assumption that I have. So I give it the benefit of the doubt, because I'm always willing to accept the fact that I could be wrong about something, right? And I will always look into it, always. But from my experience, anytime conservatives are flapping their lips about something, and by flapping their lips, I mean just bop, 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 just repeating the same damn things over and over again, repeating what they read on 4chan, okay? Anytime I see that sort of behavior, I am always going to assume right off in the beginning that it's bullshit. Always, I will assume it. Because in my experience, every single time I've heard conservatives bop, 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 about one little damn thing, maybe with the exception of abortion, okay, but I'm talking about things like this. I look into it, I find out that it's bullshit. Bill Gates, bop, 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 bop. I'm like, okay, Bill Gates, he's super rich, he's making some tweets. The vaccine is the mark of the beast. Agenda 21. What else is there? Iraq having weapons of mass destruction. Like, there's so many examples of this sort of thing. And don't get me wrong, you can find the same thing on the left as well. When I hear like the left going off about police are bad, I look into it and it's bullshit. Okay. And but liberals will repeat certain narratives like it's holy gospel, you know. Police are bad, police are bad, police are bad, police are bad, police are bad. But then you actually look at the numbers. Like for example, I remember I looked into the numbers in my own county. What is it? I think it's Bexar County. It's like over 2 million people live in Bexar County. Over 2 million people. And in 1 year, like in a population of over 2 million people, I think it was like 19 people were shot and killed by cops. Out of a population of over 2 million, like 2.3, 2.5 million, something like that. Like this is not a police force that just wants to go out and kill people. It's just not. It isn't only conservatives who are talking about the Great Reset, though. Okay, who else is talking about it? The church wasn't called Christian Church. It was called Great. We know this already, man. Joe Manchin. Yep, Joe Manchin. Great. Major politicians in other countries were using that slogan as well. It's just a theory to right now about bringing back what? Adil John, would you like to come on like and just I don't know. Actually no, I don't want to talk. Never mind. Build back better. It's like why are we even talking about this? It hasn't even been passed yet. Yeah, I know France is doing it. I know India, all these countries are doing it, but I'm talking about like actual countries that had serious that pose serious dangers to the world within the modern era, okay? I don't think France was one of them. Germany and Japan definitely were. Oh, now we're talking about the Catholic Church now. Let's talk about the Catholic Church. Okay. But that was back then. So? I remember when they were talking about Agenda 21. Obama's gonna know Obama. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Oh no. Oh no, John Avanti, what is your disagreement, my friend? What's going on, man? Talk to me here. What's going on? If the Build Back Better bill, even if it's passed, how could you connect it with the World Economic, like what does that have to do with World Economic Forum? I don't know, guys. Yeah, I agree, Kevin Blackwell. I agree. Some guy says something, build a great reset, everybody, it's gonna come. Do you know what the? Oh god, hold on, I gotta get a drink, guys. Hold on. You know what? Hold on, I don't have to take my hold on. Let's see the distance. Hold on. Can you guys still hear me? We still good? Man, I feel like I feel like I'm working in a drive-through right now. Are we still good? Man, I feel this is some serious power. This is like I'm a level up right now. I'm a level up right now, guys. This is like a level of power that I can't even comprehend. Like I'm literally these are wireless headphones. No, they're not Bluetooth. They're connected through this device here. You connect this device. This is the charger for the headphones, and you just connect it to the computer, and bam, wireless connection. So somebody recommended that I get. No, I heard a chicken clucking a little too loud. They're all free ranging right now. Somebody recommended that I drink this beer, Voodoo Ranger. I feel like I'm working at a drive-through. Hello, welcome to McDonald's. So somebody recommended that I drink this. Somebody said this was really good. Voodoo Ranger IPA. Somebody recommended this to me, so I'm gonna give this a try, everybody. Okay. Okay, hold on. Wow. Wow. That is really good. It has this. It's an IPA, so it has that typical bitter hoppy taste, but this beer has almost like a sweet citrus taste to it. So, wow, this is really good. I didn't expect this to be this good. Yes, sister, you were the one who recommended this to me. I listened. I got it today. I got some of this today. I said I'm gonna try this out. Voodoo Ranger. This is it's good taste. Wow, that is really good. That's probably the best tasting IPA I've ever tasted. Because I'm not too crazy about IPAs because they have that. They have that bitter orange flavor that's really strong. But this is really it's sweet. It's not too sweet. It's just slightly sweet. It's just right. Good balance between bitterness and sweetness. It's really good. Um, so anyway, what are we talking about here, guys? The priesthood is perfect or what? What's going on? There's no molesters in the priesthood. Okay, I'll try it in a bottle next time I get bottled beer. I'll get the voodoo beer. I agree that beer in a bottle probably it's a better experience because it's like a glass, cold glass or something about it that is better. But this is, I mean, this is pretty good too. Okay, we're getting into some serious meta-analysis here, but they are not doing it as priests. Yes, they are. Yes, they are, John Avanti. Because when you wear that lapel and somebody comes up to you and says, Father, I want to talk to you about something in regards to the faith, they are trusting you because you have that lapel. They're not walking up to a guy who has civilian clothing on and has the appearance of an average person. When somebody walks to a person with the lapel, they are walking to them because they're a priest. When they come up to somebody and say, Father, I want to talk to you about something, and that priest has that lapel, he is at that point in the capacity of a priest. And the reason why that person wants to talk to the priest about a theological matter or a sin matter is because that layperson trusts the man with the collar. And the man with the collar takes advantage of that. So he takes, and this is definition predator behavior. Predators take advantage of the trust of their victims. That's why people who have been molested or they've been raped or they have been violated in some way, they have trust issues because they don't want their trust to be abused. And I understand that. That's understandable. And when you go to the priest to say, Father, I want to talk to you. I want to confess a sin. I want to have a question, a discussion with you about some kind of theological matter. And that priest tries to take advantage of that person, be it a young man or a young woman or a young boy or a young girl. That priest is engaging in predator behavior. And he is taking advantage of the trust that layperson has. And that trust that the layperson has is based off of the fact that he's a priest and he has that collar. So don't give me this rubbish that he's not a priest. It's like a police officer walking around with a badge and a uniform, and you say, officer, let's say a young woman's officer, oh my God, I need your help. I'm being chased right now. Officer says, get in my car. He drives her away, and then he rapes her. Well, he wasn't a cop when he was doing it. Yes, he was. Because the only reason why that girl is in that cop's car, only reason why that girl goes to that cop for help is because she trusts the cop because of the cop's badge. Because that badge signifies some level of authority which denotes protection against criminals. Do you see what I'm saying here? It's like it's like walking to a fire. Let's say you see a fireman, and he's next to his big old fire truck. Say, fireman, there's a fire. Please come over and put the fire out. Fireman drives to the place, puts the fire out, and then the person says, well, the girl says, my house is burned down. I can't, I don't know. Oh, and the fireman says, you can stay at the department. We have a room for you. He takes her there and then tries to rape her, right? Well, he wasn't a fireman when he was doing it. Really? So, Mr. whatever your name is, Avanti. Mr. Avanti. Mr. Avanti. Should that priest be fired? Yes or no? Hold on. Avanti, if you want to come in and talk to me, I'll do it. If you want to talk audibly, we can have a little debate. Let's do it right now. If you don't want to do that, then just answer me this question. Should that priest be fired? If the priest has sexually harassed or molested somebody, should the priest be fired? Should he be thrown out of the priesthood? Yes or no? I just want to know. Yes or no? Yes. Then he was a priest. Because the reason why you're getting rid of him from the priesthood is because he did so in the capacity of being a priest, in his position as a priest. Well, he wasn't a priest when he was molesting, so then you shouldn't fire him as a priest then, because he wasn't a priest when he was molesting. So when he's a priest, he's perfect. When he's not a priest, he's the devil. Which one is it? So you're getting rid of him because he abused his power. So because he was a priest when he was doing evil. Why? No, why get rid of him then? He wasn't a priest when he was doing all that evil stuff. When he was evil, he was not a priest. So you shouldn't get rid of him from the priesthood. I'm using your own logic. I'm using your own logic against your argument. You guys can't get around it. You guys want to get all these arguments and use word Olympics to try to justify whatever it is and try to make sense of all this chaos, because there's nothing but chaos going on when it comes to the priesthood. And you guys are trying to make sense of it. Well, a capacity and and that capacity here's my ear, no, my ear is over here. You are getting rid of the act. No, you're getting rid of the priest. You're firing him. Please don't use this. Don't use this surreal way of arguing with me. This doesn't work with me. You're getting rid of the person. That person's the person. If you're a molester and you're giving communion out, you're still the same monster. You're still a monster. Okay. You're punished for your actions, that's correct, but your actions reflect who you are as a person. Don't you agree? Don't your actions reflect you as a human being? Doesn't it reflect your own internal disposition? He wasn't a priest when he was molesting a boy. Okay, so if he wasn't a priest when he was molesting a boy, then you shouldn't fire him from the priesthood. Because he wasn't a priest when he was molesting, he was somebody else. He wasn't punished for being a priest. So what? So what? That doesn't change the fact that you have predators with the collars on. I can guarantee you, none of you trad cats, would give such leisure to an Orthodox priest or a Protestant minister. None of you guys would. You guys wouldn't be making any of these arguments for any other religious clerical order. It's New Year's Eve, gentlemen, and we are enjoying Voodoo Ranger, okay? That is delicious. Oh my gosh, no wonder this is so popular. I've heard that this was very popular. A lot of people told me, not a lot, but a couple people told me about this, but Sister Tenacious was the person who convinced me to get this because, yeah, exactly. They acted while they were priests. Why is that so difficult for you people to comprehend? Listen, if the priest was a manager at Applebee's and the manager at Applebee's molested somebody, he would be fired and thrown in prison. If that priest was dressed up with his freaking Christmas sweater on, nobody would be coming up to him saying, Father, let me talk to you, please. It's only because he has that lapel that people talk to him. So people trusted him in his capacity as a priest. He abused that trust. He took advantage of that trust because of his position as a priest. Do you see what I'm saying here? He took advantage of that trust which emanates from him being a priest. Does that make any sense to you? But no, they weren't priests when they're doing it. You can't make that argument, please. So then why fire them? They're acting out of the priesthood. You shouldn't fire any pedophile priest. In your logic, no priest should ever be fired because they don't act as when they're doing evil. They're not priests. Found a loophole. That's a rabbinic Talmudic loophole that you've just committed. This is why I keep telling people. This is why I keep telling people. The Catholic Church is the Pharisaical institution of our time. The Catholic Church has gone down the road of the Pharisee. You know how people say, "Oh, he's going down the road of the dodo bird." You know, when they want to say that something is going extinct, they'll say, "Oh, it's going to go down the way of the dodo bird," right? Because the dodo bird apparently doesn't exist anymore. The Catholic Church is going down the road of the Pharisee, everybody. You're seeing it in real time. It's happening. If the Pharisaical order was the institution of Christ's time and it was corrupt, the Pharisaical order of our time is the institution of the Catholic Church. When Jesus, there's that verse in the New Testament when Jesus was harvesting wheat with his disciples, and the Pharisees came over and they said, "Why are you harvesting wheat? It's the middle of the Sabbath." And Jesus said, "The Sabbath is made for man. Man was not made for the Sabbath." And he gives the wheat to his disciples. What was he saying there? What does that really mean? What it means is a new priesthood is coming to replace you guys. And I'm giving this wheat. You know, a lot of New Testament translations say corn. Well, there was no corn in the Middle East until the Spaniards went over there and got it. There was no corn in the Middle East. It was all wheat. Jesus passed the wheat to his disciples. In other words, saying, this is the new sacrifice. These men that you see right now, these are the new priests. This is the new priesthood. And God established the Catholic Church. Christ established the Catholic Church. God established the temple institution, and it went corrupt. God established the Catholic institution, and it's gone corrupt. So it's gone the way of the Pharisaical dodo bird, everybody. And it's going to go down. I picture German and Turkish troops in the middle of Vatican City, St. Peter's Basilica on fire, German soldiers playing the accordions, and nuns and priests and monks and all these people being butchered. That's what that's how I picture the Catholic Church in the future. That's my Dad, where do you see the Catholic Church in 50? That's where I see the Catholic Church. In flames. I really see that. Go watch the movie. If you have not seen the movie, come and see. I don't know why you haven't seen this film yet. It's for free on YouTube, everybody. Go look it up. Come and see. Go come and see. Come and see. That's the future of the Catholic Church. In flames with a bunch of Germans playing accordions. Maybe there'll be some Ukrainian paramilitaries, auxiliary troops there as well. But that's how I see the Catholic Church, everybody. Mm-hmm. They go to confession. Oh my gosh. You can molest children and just go to confession, everybody. You're good. Oh, and by the way, the priest who hears the confession of a molester, he can't go to the police because he would be breaking the seal of confession. That's a bigger sin than covering up a pedophile, everybody. In what world does that make sense? In what world does that ever make sense? It only makes sense in the mind of a psychopath. I'm sorry. This is bullshit. If you're a priest and a priest comes to you and says, I molested somebody, if you don't go to the police, then you're evil. If you know children are in harm's way, you are evil. I don't give a damn about breaking the seal of confession. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that obsession with the seal of confession cannot be broken under no circumstances? Do you know what that is? That's Pharisaism. The worship of the letter of the law and not having the spirit of the law. Which, what did Christ say? How did he define the spirit of the law? Justice, mercy. And if you're not going to the police to bring justice to a pedophile, then you have no mercy. You're evil. You're evil. Simple as that. You are an evil SOB. That's what I say. Evil. Evil. You're evil. I don't give a shit what anybody. You're evil. If I know, like, hey, that guy's must. All right, we're going to the police. And if you disagree, then you are evil. You are a part of some cult. You are a Pharisee. You are no different than somebody who's in a cult. And what is the difference between you and the Mormons who were living in that cult in Texas? What was it called? Jeff Jones, whatever his name was. He was a Mormon cult leader, and they all knew he was raping kids, and they didn't do anything about it. Oh, we knew that he was raping kids, but we can't say anything about it because he's the leader. He's appointed by God. What is the difference between the Catholic who says you can't go to the police when the priest is molesting children, and the person who says, well, you can't go to the police because he is the almighty leader of our group and he was chosen by God? What's the difference? I'll let you guys answer that question for me. What is the difference? It's all nonsense, guys. Just the bigger God. Yeah, that's a good answer. Mr. Hannah. Hannah, are you like Lebanese? Your last name, not Jim Jones. It was, but Jim Jones is definitely an example. It was a Mormon cult. The guy who ran it was on the FBI most wanted list. What was his name? FBI most wanted. What was his name? What the hell? No. He was on the FBI most wanted list. What was his name? Warren Jeffs. That psychopath. Warren Jeffs was a Mormon cult leader back years ago. He was arrested. He was arrested. What year was it? Was it like 2007? They finally caught this bastard. He was a Mormon cult leader who was molesting children. And the people in the cult knew that he was molesting children. And they didn't give a shit because he was appointed by God. Didn't do anything about it. What is the difference between that and a Catholic priest who says, I will not go to the police when a Catholic tells me, when a priest tells me in the confessional he's molested children? I will not go to the police because I can't break the seal of confession. What's the difference? Who says that you can't report a predator priest to the police? The entire freaking Catholic Church and all the lay people. Because when Australia said Catholic priests who hear the confession of another priest and there's molestation in the confession, they have to go to the police. They have to. Oh, they can't break the seal of confession. That's who's saying it. Seriously, come on, Waco. Yeah, it was in Texas somewhere. Was it Waco? That was you're talking about David Koresh. Which part of Yeah, he went to El Dorado, Texas. This Mormon guy, not Waco. Waco was what was his name? David Koresh. Of course I'm gonna blame the priesthood, John. John, do you want to come here and debate me? I mean, really. Why not have a debate? You keep talking. Let's have a debate right now. Let me know if you want to do it, and I'll give you the link, and then you can come up on here. You can come up on here, and I'm gonna tell you why you're wrong, And you can tell me why you think I'm wrong. But of course I blame the priesthood. Of course I blame the priests. The priests are the ones covering up for these people. What the hell are you talking about? What in the world are you talking about? What I'm telling you, this type of argumentation only appears legitimate for people who believe in whatever institution that this evil takes place in. That this evil in which this evil takes place. Like it doesn't exist and it doesn't make sense. It would not make sense in your brain if it wasn't in the Catholic Church. I'll just put it that way. You need headphones? Come on. No, you don't. You can talk to me like you would talking on the phone, please. I'm drinking the voodoo. This dude's drinking the Kool-Aid, man. I don't know. Too many psychos. I actually prefer celibate priests, even though the Orthodox Church allows married men to become. I don't. I think priests should be married. This is nonsense. Stop giving a refuge for all the weirdos. That's what happened. That's why Orthodox priests, they usually appear more normal than the Catholic priests, because at least they get married, they get laid. That's why. So the normal dudes who actually want normal stuff like getting laid, they go to the Orthodox Church. Then the people who the Catholic Church the Catholic Church says you can't get married. So guess what happens? All the weirdos who are weirdos, they're like, I'll just go to the Catholic Church because it's the perfect place for me to go. I get a steady paycheck, steady salary, and I can be a weirdo. And people think that I'm God's chosen. Sounds like a great deal if you're a weirdo. Oh God, the pedophile priests are not interested in adult women. Yeah, I know. I know they're not exactly. That's why I'm saying all the weirdos come there. The pedophile priests are not interested. Yeah, I know. I already read. Yeah. Some give up their own kids. Yep, that's right. I've seen this in cults. They have a movie. I didn't know they had a movie about it. I saw a documentary about him years ago. It was really disturbing. Back in the day, man, that was crazy. That was crazy. He was arrested in 2006, actually. He's still in prison. Is he dead yet? No, this guy's still alive. I can't believe that. He was also a huge racist, this guy. I think he was homosexual too, because there was a young man who was part of the cult who said that he anally raped him when he was young. So I wouldn't doubt he was also homosexual. It's anecdotal evidence. Excuse me? Hold on. Hold on, Anthony. You are so wrong about this. For one, if somebody were to go to a confessional to confess the crime, I'm not even going to call it a sin because it sounds like you're belittling it, the crime of molestation or some kind of predatory action, why would that priest lie in a confessional? If he truly believes, oh, the priest is going to hear my confession, he's going to have it sealed, blah, 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 why would he lie in a confessional? You may call it anecdotal. That's not anecdotal. Maybe you could call it circumstantial, but any sort of witness evidence or eyewitness account is going to be considered circumstantial. It's still used in court, well, you're not my friend, you're an acquaintance, but it's still used in court. So I don't see what you're talking about. I don't see what you're talking about. I don't know what point you're trying to make across when you say that, because all eyewitness accounts are circumstantial. Anyone who hears but if you hear a confession, that is taken in as evidence. The man who says to his friend in a gym as you're lifting weights, and this did actually happen, I want to kill my wife, and then that friend goes to the police and says, hey, my friend at the gym wants to kill his wife, and then they have a investigator, or they have some kind of a police officer pretend to be a hitman, and he says, yeah, you want to kill your wife? I'm a hitman. And the guy says, yeah, I want to kill my wife. How much are you charging? And the guy says, well, I'm charging $1,500. And he signs the check for $1,500. Guess what? That cop's going to prison, or that guy's going to go to prison. But the reason why they did the whole freaking operation was because the friend said, this guy said, I want to kill my wife, and the cops take that seriously. So you can't pull this argument. Come on, it's not going to work with me. That's not going to work with me. If they said, why would a priest lie in a confessional? Why would he say, yeah, I molested a young boy in a confessional? Why would he say that? That doesn't make any sense. the police have no way of knowing if the priest reporting the confession is telling the truth. That's why you have an investigation. That's why you have that. You take that as an investigation. Yes, other things are done. Everybody, come on. There's no way. So if I call up the police, so you're saying that the police shouldn't listen to anybody because all reports made by people they can't be trusted. Of course, there has to be investigations done to complement that statement. Of course. We don't know what they say in the confessional. Well, what if the person hearing the confession reports it? Then he knows. Your guys, your logic guys. I'm telling you, you guys would never be saying these things if it wasn't if these things weren't happening in the church. The only reason why you guys are making all these like word Olympic arguments is because you guys are like trad cats. That's the only reason why. Of course they have corrupt priests in the Orthodox Church. But the Catholic Church has a freaking cancer tumor the size of the damn Taj Mahal. It's called the Vatican. I am pretty sure. Seriously, guys, you guys are the reason why the Catholic Church is messed up. I truly believe the reason why the Catholic Church is so messed up is not necessarily because of the priesthood. It's not solely because of the priesthood. It's because of people like you, Anthony, and people like you, John Avanti. That's the reason why. You guys realize you guys represent everything wrong with the Catholic Church, right? You guys represent everything wrong with the Catholic Church. You have this indiscriminate obeisance to everything about it. You make up word Olympic arguments to defend it no matter how much evil it covers up. You guys are literally everything wrong with the Catholic Church. Everything wrong with the Catholic Church. You guys represent it. You guys realize that, right? Because if everybody thought like me, do you think they would be pedophile priests walking around? Do you think they would really be predator priests walking around if every guy thought like me? Let's be serious here. Do you really believe that? If everybody was walking around like me, Mr. Pessimistic Middle Eastern guy, you think there would be people walking around like, oh, predator? No, those predator priests would be getting their freaking faces smashed in. That's what would be happening. There wouldn't be like, whoa, that he wasn't a priest when he was doing it. We have to pray for him. There wouldn't be any of that stuff. It would be like, oh, wait, he's a predator? Oh, smash his face. Smash his face in. Honest to God, smash his face in. Put him in the prison cell and have the criminals enact their own system of justice on him. Have prison justice imposed upon him. See how much he likes that. And then when the prison system gets asked about it, hey, wasn't this priest beaten to death? And the cop guards are going to say, what? They're going to cover it up just like the Catholic Church covers up their own shit. It's absolutely shaming Jesus. You guys don't love Jesus, by the way. I don't believe that. There's no way you could love Jesus. There's no way. There is no way you could love Jesus and make the arguments that you're making now. When everything is just so straightforwardly simple as what I'm saying. There is no way that you guys love Jesus. It is a snowball's chance in hell that you guys love Jesus. You guys don't. No, you don't. If you love Jesus, then you would believe in justice and mercy. You wouldn't be sitting there making arguments for this nonsense. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, everybody. I know these are fighting words that I'm stating right now, but prove me wrong. You guys don't love Jesus. You don't. You don't love Jesus. You don't love the disciples. You don't love all the saints you claim to be praying to. You don't love any of this stuff. You guys just love this panache of culture called trad Catholicism that you love to embellish yourselves with. That's what that is. You have your headphones. Okay. All right, Mr. Let's see. I'm going to invite you on. Nobody click on this link. This is for John Avanti, okay? John, this is for you. The link is right there. No one click on this link except for John Avanti. This is for him. John, let me know when you're ready. Click on that link. Oh, there you are. Okay, hold on. Let me get the sound on here. All right, can you say something, John?
Hello?
Let me get you up. Guys, can you hear John? Guys, can you hear him? I'm pretty sure they can hear you. Anyway, there's kind of a noise in the background. Is that music or something?
Yeah, let me turn that off.
Okay. Okay, you guys could hear him good. Okay, very nice. John, so can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me where you think I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. Hold on. I gotta get to the other. Because StreamYard is the live feed, and here's the pop-out chat. All right. My thing. Hello, everybody. Theodore, I love you as a guy, man. I love your show. I'm
Thank
a
you.
subscriber to your channel.
Thank you.
No hard feelings, my friend.
No, I
Everybody
understand.
in the chat. Yeah. I just don't think that anyone can blame anybody's profession for their actions. Just like you can't blame a cop, you can't blame a teacher, even though they're acting in that degree. So what I say is that the people who are actually committing the act are the internal feelings they have. So if a man looks in the mirror and he sees a man, and then he goes out and desires a child or another man, that carnal thought is what we should be blaming, not the actual priesthood, because
Okay.
the priesthood is a wonderful thing. I mean, I went to Catholic school, okay, not high school Catholic school, and none of my friends were ever bothered. I was a choir boy. I'm not a diehard Catholic. I don't go to church all the time. Probably haven't been in church in years, but common sense will tell you that. You know, hey. But common sense will tell you that it's not the actual person who's wearing the uniform who's committing the act. Like no one ordered that priest to go out and hurt anybody. It's like going to saying to someone, "Oh, they ordered me to kill 1,000 people, but I did it anyway." Even though you knew it was wrong, or even though you knew your life was on the line. But no one ever that priest didn't go to 8 years of seminary to learn how to molest children.
No. So I'm not saying that the priesthood, and I've never said this, that the priesthood unto itself, like the concept of the priesthood isn't bad. The very concept in its essence is not bad, right? Just like you said, the profession of a cop is not bad. But what I am saying, and this is the very obvious thing that everybody has heard of, is that there are very powerful people who are priests who cover these things up.
Right, because they themselves are the accusers. They themselves are acting in that carnal thought. They're not acting in like when a priest is performing mass, he's not molesting children. When a priest is hearing confession, he's doing it on his own time.
Okay, but when
I'm
a
sure a lot of these priests that excuse me, they're not even wearing their priest garments. They go outside. And I also believe that a lot of these accusations made against a lot of these priests were false. I mean, you could argue with me about that. Like a lot of these like priests that were retiring and they were bishops and they made these confessions were probably all false, because a lot of the priests that
they're
were
all false.
not all of them. Not all of them, but I'm
I
saying
think
like a lot of
no.
them, a lot of the priests that were accused were dead. If you do the
So?
math and you look up, a lot of them were dead. So like I can go blame a dead guy and then sue the church for billions of dollars. The church paid out about $10 billion in lawsuits.
So
10 billion. So now if the church didn't have all that money that people would know, like these lawyers could make these class action suits and sue
So
people,
then-
they wouldn't do it. Like the Greek Orthodox, the Eastern Orthodox, or any Orthodox church, or Protestant churches, small little churches, they don't get sued because there's no money there.
why is there so many cover-ups though? Why do they cover up for all these different priests? Why were they covering up for all these priests for all these years, for all these decades?
Well, because the sinners will cover the sinners.
So then there is definitely evil in the priesthood.
It's not in the priesthood; it's the people. See, what
But they're
happens too is,
priests.
all right.
But
So
they're
you
priests.
right. So let's take for example Martin Luther, the guy who nailed his demands on the wall on the door of the church. You know what he is, right? Protestant Reformation. I mean, who really backed that guy? If you think about it, the media.
But he
What?
left the Catholic Church. He wasn't a monk anymore. He
Not right
left the whole
away.
thing. He started his own church. We're not talking about some guy who's a schismatic and he starts his own church. We're talking about people. I'll give you an example. In the San Antonio Archdiocese, this happened recently. There was a priest named, he wasn't a priest, he was a deacon, Deacon Orr, who raped children. He sexually molested several children in the Catholic school. One of the, I believe one or several of the victims was actually in the Catholic school itself. And Father Christopher Phillips covered up for it. He covered up for it for all of those years. So the priest who molests children, look at the Polish sex scandal. It's not even a sex scandal. Look at the molestation scandal that took place in Poland. All of these children, young people, young girls, raped by priests, and nothing happened to them. Mexico, the same thing happened. There's a video that you can watch. There was an institution for the blind in Italy. Young blind children, Catholic school just for blind kids, blind and kids who were mute, who couldn't talk clearly, and they had very strong speech impediments. And there was a priest. I can show you the video. He's talking. There's an undercover camera. He doesn't know there's a camera, and he is laughing, talking about how and he's giving names of all the priests. Oh yeah, he liked to touch the kids' penises and the balls. He liked to touch them. He's laughing about it. Undercover camera. What happened to any of these people? Are they behind bars? Why hasn't the Catholic Church reported Father Christopher Phillips to the police for covering up a crime?
Well, some priests did go to jail for their actions. When they
as they should, but look at the situations when they were put in prison. Why did the Catholic Church work with law enforcement? Because they had to. They're pressured to do so. But because there's so many cases where they don't work with law enforcement, like for example, there was the situation in Chicago where there was a priest who was looking at child pornography, and he was running this program. I forget the name of it, but it was something in Spanish. He was covering this program. He was running this program where they were streamlining in young men from Mexico to become priests. Turned out that a lot of these kids were homosexual themselves. They were young homosexuals who wanted to join the priesthood, and they were streamlining all of this. And it just so happens that the guy who directed the whole thing owned child pornography. And there was a priest and there was a layman who discovered his computer. The priest found the computer. There was child porn playing on the computer. Guess who went to the authorities?
Who?
The layperson did, not the priest.
Okay, I mean, if you want to, if you can say that the church didn't do, the church took responsibility. They paid billions of dollars in restitution.
It's not all about money.
They admitted it.
It's not all about money. Oh, so they admitted it. So but by your own admission, then they may have this problem.
It's a problem that's created. The church does not form child molesters. The church ordains priests.
Sure as hell ordains them.
So what happened? But listen, if you're a homosexual and you want to become a priest, right? And then you say, I'm gonna live a life of celibacy, right? Now, we are forgiving people. We are understanding people. So if the guy goes through the priesthood and he follows through and all of that, and then he gets ordained, and then in time, he starts getting these mental, because I believe that homosexuality is a mental disorder. I don't think it's a normal, fashionable thing. It's psychological problems that People have. It's also a way of retaliating against other things. So these people actually go into a priesthood where they see an order. The Catholic Church is an order, right? We have the heavens, we have the church, we have the pope, we have the bishops. It's an order. It goes all the way down to the priest. So it's an order. And there are a lot of people out there that want to disrupt order, just like we've been seeing with Black Lives Matter, Antifa. They want to disrupt the order of society. And these people are psychotic. So you can't. So I will never blame the priesthood that I respect, and that I feel that priests are wonderful people. I mean, there's so many priests out there that are just fantastic people. I mean,
So
they're
you're
just great. And
okay.
then there are people that are bad people. You know,
I've
but
heard
it's not
all
the
this.
priest doing it.
Okay.
It's the
I've heard all this
carnal
stuff.
desires.
I've heard all this stuff about priests being fantastic people, and then they ended up being predators. So when I hear, for example, when I've heard all these years about the church being this institution founded by Jesus Christ, that is an extremely, extremely remarkable statement to make. And when you make that statement that it was founded by Jesus Christ, then it better be an institution that fights for justice and mercy. And when you have a Catholic Church that has covered up for literally thousands upon thousands of sexual predators for decades, then it's very difficult to convince people that you're an institution founded by Jesus Christ. Another thing that I want to say is if somebody were to tell you, hey, John, don't go to this neighborhood because there's a lot of cartel violence in this place. And you're like, well, I don't believe that because there's great people in this town. There's amazing people in this town. And then you go to this town and you're like, you're walking around and then all of a sudden you get mugged. You're like, well, it happened only one time. And then you're still there. You still continue there. You still continue to live there. And then all of a sudden you get mugged again. And then you get mugged the third time. You're like, man, there's something wrong with this place if I'm getting mugged within 2 years. When I joined the Catholic Church in 2013, literally the first year I was there was a priest who preyed upon me. John Kinsel. Robert L. Kinsel. Not John. Robert L. Kinsel. Second year I was there, Yarbrough, another predator, who admitted to touching a young man inappropriately. And he wanted to do the same thing to me, but believe me, I wouldn't let him. Doing the same thing. Third time it happened. Then there was a fourth priest that I met. Who ended up being who it turned out was covering up for a real pedophile, a convicted pedophile, almost convicted pedophile, named Deacon Orr, who literally molested children, and Phillips was covering up for him for years. And this was eventually revealed to the public. So if someone says, Ted, don't go into this town because you're going to get mugged or there's a lot of crime there, it's like, and this happens 3, 4, 5 times, like, man, there really is a problem going on. Well, why can't we make that same sort of why can we apply that same sort of logic and that common sense to the Catholic Church? I just don't see why not.
Well, because what we're doing is we're shaming the priest. We're not shaming the homosexual.
We're shaming people who aren't doing their job, who don't care. That's a huge that there's nothing wrong with that.
Right, but
if you're in the military, and were you ever in the military?
Yes, I was.
I can tell by the way you talk. If there was this problem in the military, don't you think it should be fixed? Would you say, well, I don't think you would say, well, you're shaming the military or you're shaming the authorities of the military or the superiors. I would say that you, being someone who believes in morals, you would be saying, hey, this needs to be done. And they should be shamed if they're covering up for this.
Right. But what I was saying about Martin Luther is that the way Martin Luther's message got out to the peasants, because the peasants were the ones who uprised, rather than uprising against the landowners and the people that are oppressing them, right? The media took it upon themselves that the printing press was coming about. They were printing papers, people buying newspapers. They took it upon themselves to blame the church for lies about whatever the guy was lying about. And it wasn't true. So they started this whole reformation. So it's the same thing with this. So now the media, rather than saying a homosexual molested a child and showed him not wearing his havoc or his collar, but wearing Nike clothes, right? Showing that because the man himself is the one who committed the act. The priest didn't commit the act as a priest. He was just wearing priestly clothes. People impersonate people and commit crimes. That's what I'm saying. So like the media blamed the act of the homosexual act itself. Like saying a homosexual molested a child, a pedophile molested a girl. Because this priest have molested little girls too. They're not gay. So they go after young girls or girls and whatever, which I agree. So that's my thing, is that what they should do is they should blame the act, because it's the homosexual desire, carnal feelings that wants to have sex with another man or a boy. The priest was never taught to do that. The
If a
church
police, okay,
recruits priests, they don't recruit homosexuals.
if a
act
police,
upon-
they do recruit homosexuals because many times they know that the priest, the seminarians are homosexual when they appoint them.
Right, but then they take a vow of celibacy. So we have to take their word for it.
No. I'm sorry. They see. I don't see how that is even okay. There are different things that I want to say in response to what you said here. Just to respond to the
I have
last
to
thing
go
that you
after
said.
this.
Okay. Just to respond to the last thing that you said that they make a vow of celibacy. In the Old Testament, there is a verse that talks about Sodomites becoming priests, and God looks down on this. And then some righteous king, I think it was King Hezekiah, came over and got rid of all, killed them all, actually. So, appointing homosexual priests, as long as they make a vow of celibacy, that is not a valid answer, nor is it a valid action to make.
Well, I'm just looking at it as I'm just saying that as a layperson. I really
Okay.
don't know exactly what it is to become a priest.
Okay,
I'm just
secondly-
saying they take a vow of celibacy, so that may
Okay. Gotcha.
that may make the church feel better.
So I know you got to go, so I just want to make this one last response to you. So another thing also is when you say, well, they need to blame the act. If a police officer is walking around with his uniform, and people say, and some woman says, "Help me, officer, help me," and the officer says, "Oh, I'll help you," and puts her in the police car and then rapes her, I would say we should definitely mention the fact that he's a police officer and he was using his uniform and his position as a way to take advantage of somebody and abuse the trust of another human being.
But-
If we do not maintain the integrity of these titles and of these uniforms, like the badge or like the lapel, then guess what that causes? It causes mistrust for these institutions, and you diminish the cohesiveness of society. So the type of argumentation that you're utilizing here is actually very dangerous for society, because it ruins the cohesiveness of society, because people lose trust in the Catholic Church, then people turn to atheism, people turn to cults, they turn to heresy. Another thing that I want to also say is the fact that they utilized their lapel to take advantage of somebody means we should definitely mention the fact that they are priests, because in all these cases it's the priest and a victim.
But then
Like in
we-
Poland, like in Italy, like in the United States, like in Mexico, Argentina, it doesn't matter. All these things are happening. Look at the Buffalo, New York sex scandal case. Dozens of priests. Dozens of priests.
You're agreeing with the fact that all white people, that in reality, where all white people are systemically racist. Because one white
Wait, what?
guy-
I don't know what. Hold on. I'm trying to get
Well,
your
because
point of
one-
logic here isn't making sense. What do you mean white people are systemically racist?
No, by you saying that we should call out all cops.
No.
all
No.
priests.
I'm not
Say
saying
that-
we should
that's
call
what
out
you're
all
doing.
cops.
Well,
I'm
that's
saying-
what happens.
I'm
If
saying
you
that if a-
say- But
Okay.
that's what happens. If
No.
you say that a
No,
cop
no.
molested a child, people are going to look at cops and say, well, that guy could be a child molester.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply making a parallel situation
Right,
to
I
help better
understand,
to help underline what I'm trying to say, to help amplify what I'm trying to say, to give
But
people a
that
better
parallel
perspective.
is the
Look
same
outside
as-
of the Catholic Church here for a second. If a cop utilized his uniform to take advantage of the trust of another human being, that cop is abusing his position. And if the police department is covering up for him, then that indicates corruption on the part of the police department itself. The same type of thing is happening. I'm not saying this is happening. What I would argue is that the situation in the Catholic Church is far worse than any corruption in the police force. That's what I would argue. But I'm simply using that as an analogy to bring a better perspective to what I'm trying to say, and that is that abusing your lapel, abusing your uniform, abusing the trust of the lay people, that is evil. And to say, well, they're not doing it as priests, they are, because the victim is made a victim in the circumstances in which that person is putting trust in the priesthood.
But
Do you
they're
see
not-
what I'm trying to say?
But when they're doing that, they're not acting as a priest. You can't. It's like sociology, like Carl Jung. He blames society for the actions of a few who can't function in society. So he blames the entire society. Just
Okay.
like they're doing now, like with this whole woke thing. They want to blame everybody in society because some people can't go up and get a job. So it's everybody's fault. And we have to pay them and we have to coddle them.
That's a different subject, but
But it's almost the same thing. You're paralleling. So if you could say slave owners own slaves, now all white people are systemic racists. Like we're born racists.
that's not
the same-
even
it's
that's
the
not
same thing.
even
So
in
every
comparison to
priest
what I'm saying.
has a possibility of becoming a
That's not even
pedophile
but that's
if
not a
you-
legitimate comparison. What I'm trying to point out to you is the absolute corruption within the Catholic Church that is extremely cancerous. And when they abuse their position as priest, they are to say, okay, if you're going to say, well, they're not acting as priests when they're doing that, okay, fine, they're not doing what priests should be doing. So then, should we fire that priest?
The person, we should fire that person.
Why?
The person's being fired, but he wasn't acting. He was wearing priestly clothes. That doesn't make him acting as a priest. That's not. his
Why
action.
should he be fired if he wasn't a priest when he was doing the evil?
But well, everybody does that. I mean, that's just the way it is. The guy gets a job, and he acts in an inappropriate way, and he gets fired, regardless of what his profession is.
Because he was doing evil.
Even as a politician, what are you gonna say? I mean, that was his
Right,
job
but
at
I'm
the time.
simply taking your logic here and I'm trying to apply it to this argument here. You're saying that they weren't acting as priests, but then why fire them if they weren't priests when they were doing the evil?
That was just their profession. They're gonna go to trial not as a priest. They're gonna say you are going to jail because you're
No,
a priest.
but they're-
You're going to jail because you molested as a homosexual or as a pedophile a person. When they go to court, they're not wearing priestly clothes. They're wearing jumpsuits. They're in handcuffs. They're not priests anymore.
You're deflecting though. You're deflecting from the argument.
Deflecting.
You're deflecting
Anyway.
from it because you're saying, well, it happened. You're trying to generalize everything, because the argument that you're hinging the point that you're hinging your argument upon, is that they're not priests when they're doing it. That's what your point is. So if that is your point, then why should they be fired?
What I'm saying is their carnal desires is not a priestly desire.
But it's not just the carnal desires; it's the entire system that's covering up for them.
Because I mean, but you can't blame the church. The church is an organization.
I will blame the church. What are you talking about? What do you mean
I
don't blame the church?
I don't blame the church. I blame
What?
the
You
individual
don't.
people.
So when you have bishops that are covering up for these people, you don't blame them?
Well, they should be removed too, and be tried.
So you do blame them then. So you blame the church.
But not. I don't blame the position of the bishop.
But the
I
church
blame-
consists
I
of
blame
people.
the person, right? So
But the
people-
church. So you have to blame the church.
not the church. I blame the person.
The church consists of people. The church is not this pie in the sky institution that's just there in your brain. It's like it's an actual institution that consists of people.
It's like if a student acts out of order in a classroom, and what they do today is they punish the whole classroom rather than punishing the individual student.
If a professor is molesting
Because all
children,
students are.
if a teacher is molesting children and the entire school board of education covers up for him, don't you blame the institution of education?
I blame the people who are doing.
Don't you
it.
blame the
Not
board of
board-
education though?
Not the positions that they hold. I blame the.
But we're not talking about but
individual-
nobody's making that argument. No one's saying that the position should be blamed. We're talking about the people, the leadership, what the church actually consists of, which is people.
Well, I would like to talk to you somewhat. Theodore, thank you for
All right.
having me up on your screen.
Okay.
Say hello to your dad for me.
I will. Have it.
And everybody
All
in the
right.
chat, Happy New Year. God
Oh, Happy
bless
New Year to you.
And I'll see you guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Damn. Talk about deflection. Oh my god, dude. At least he was polite about it. You can't really make, you can't, like, they won't engage with the logic, because his whole, it's like, if a politician, so if I told you, hey, this politician raped somebody, and then he was removed from his, well, he's going to go to prison, obviously. Okay, fine, he committed a crime. But if your entire argument is hinged upon this point that he wasn't a priest when he was doing it, then why fire him? I'm simply taking your logic against you. I'm putting your logic against you. Well, that was his profession. Okay, but now you're just overgeneralizing it. Your specific point that's so ingrained in this topic that's drilling on this topic, so entrenched in this topic, is they're not doing it as a priest, but they're abusing their capacity as priests. The only reason why there's a victim here is because that person trusted you as a priest. It's oh my god. Talk about deflection. Now I know, oh my god. This is going to sound so wrong. Now I know what young people talk about when they talk about getting gaslighted by their dads. They talk about getting gaslit by their dad. This is it, guys. I'm experiencing it. Oh my god. This is deflection right here, guys. Who else wants to debate me? Debate me! You got a pint, mate? You got a pint of beer, mate? What you drinking there, Mr. Juan Isaac? Juan, what are you drinking? Corona, Madula, what are you drinking? Modelo, Corona, Dos Equis, Pacifico. Good lord. Good lord. I need another beer after this. I need another beer. I think I'm going to use it as an excuse to drink another one. Kona Brewery, nice. What else is new, guys? Who else wants to debate me on this? This is just nonsense. California, cool. There's another beer that I got. It was brewed in California. Lagunitas, it's called. It's very nice, actually. I'll have a sparkling cider. Awesome. What's the like, we can't shame people. Yes, we can. Lagunitas is good. Yes, it is. It's a good IPA. I liked it. It's like it was like 8% alcohol or something like that. It's pretty good. Nuevo Año. Feliz Nuevo Año. That guy was Italian, though. You could hear some lady in the background speaking Italian. Like, these are straight up. This is like, he had to have been talking to me from like Staten Island or something like that, like New Jersey, Jersey Shore, man. This guy was straight up Italian. Staten Island is that? Yeah, he had to have been calling me from like Staten Island or New Jersey, one of those two areas. Maybe Boston, Staten Island, New Jersey, maybe Brooklyn. What bureau of the East Coast did he call me? He is a Greek Albanian? What? How do you know? No, he's not. Dude, his last name is Avanti. Maybe he's, I don't know. Maybe do Albanians have Italian names sometimes? I agree with you, Kevin Blackwell. Anthony argued with me before. We did a little debate. I don't know if he wants to do it again. Maybe we want to do a New Year's Eve special. We can debate again on trad Catholicism. I don't know. He had to have been, by his accent and the fact that somebody was speaking Italian in the background. This guy had to be, he must be calling me from Staten Island, New Jersey, Brooklyn, Boston, one of those areas. If you know what I mean. You know what I mean? The frightening part is he sounds so agreeable. Yeah, I know. He sounds so agreeable, but you know what? I could sense the argumentativeness in him. There's an argumentative side to that guy. I mean, most people have an argumentative side, but he was trying to like cover it with, I don't know. Maybe he's just old enough to not let arguments break his energy. We know Anthony is Italian, but we're not talking about Anthony. We're talking about Mr. John Avanti. I gotta laugh at this one. I'm sorry. Boomer denialism and superiority. This is brilliant. Comment of the day. This is comment of the week right here, everybody. I agree with Trads in terms of the Latin Mass. They go a little too far with the sedevacantists. They get a little too far with a lot of things, Mr. Isaac. They get a little too far with the Holocaust denial. They go a little too far with maybe some sympathies to the Third Reich. They go a little too far with just talking about the left all the time, but they don't want to talk about the far right. They get a little too far in a lot of things. Okay. Condescending argument. Yeah, I agree. It was condescending. Like, okay, your entire point is that they're not doing it in the capacity of but they are. But they're not doing it, but they are. So when you say fire them for what? They weren't doing it as priests. Well, everybody gets fired. Yeah, but your entire argument is specific on this. It's specific to this entire point that you're hinging your argument on. I don't understand. He's calling me from La La Land. Oh God. This is why I love doing these Friday live streams. You guys, some of these comments, I mean, you guys are just really funny. Doomer versus Boomer. Yes! Pay-per-view. Awesome. I loved it. I love it. I need to carve out this interview and be like, Theodore Shubot debates Catholic Boomer. I'm tempted to get another beer, but I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to promote bad behavior on here. Yeah, he can't get that though. 117 Rebel. You can tell him that till you're blue in the face. You don't identify as a trad Catholic. Okay, fine. But you sure you argue the trad position, which is understandable. I'm not condemning you for it, but you argue the trad position. Don't. Yeah, fine. Trad Catholicism is Catholicism, right? Like, I guess it's Catholicism, fine. But when I say trad Catholic, you guys realize that most Catholics are Novus Ordo, right? Trad Catholics are a minority, so that's why we make these terms up so we can sort of categorize people. So when we're talking about a certain Catholic, we'll know, oh, Novus, oh, okay, trad Catholic, oh, okay, now that makes sense. Pay-per-view, yeah. I wish we could argue more. It's he had to abruptly leave like that, but he did tell me he had to leave. So, authority abusers. I just believe everything the church teaches. Great. Two Rangers is the sweet spot. I don't want to promote bad behavior on here by doing one beer is good, second beer is you're kind of getting into like Mr. Piano Man sing me a song environment here. Are you still Catholic? Yeah, yes, I am, but very that institution of the Catholic Church, very, very, very suspicious. I'm sorry. I can't help but be suspicious. I have trust issues when it comes to the priesthood. It is the new year, true. You're convincing me, sister. You're convincing me. Maybe I'll wait until this live stream is over. I don't want to promote bad behavior here. Well, what's the alcohol content? I don't think this is a lot. This is probably like 6%. I don't know, beer, like like if you were to drink a Bacardi versus a beer, the alcohol content in the Bacardi is going to be higher. but the calorie content I think is higher in the beer, if I'm not mistaken. Is the Orthodox Church closer to God than the? I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this institution is closer to God, but what I will say is that the Orthodox, there's some things about the Orthodox world that I envy, and one of them is that I think there are priests in the Orthodox world who may be a little more normal than the Catholic world. And what I will say is that, but the Orthodox Church has its own issues. You know, it has its own issues. It has its own issue of it has its own issues of regionalism, and maybe there's some race problems with racism. I think in the Orthodox world. I mean, like this guy I just talked to, if he doesn't believe me, it's like he's from. I mean, he's obviously from the East Coast. Why not look at the Buffalo, New York scandal, the child abuse scandal? Like it's dozens of priests have been caught in the Buffalo, New York diocese. Mere 9%. Sister, you're on your second one or first one? Which one are you on? This is good stuff. I like this. This is the best IPA I've tasted. I bought 2 boxes for my grandma. My grandmother wanted to try these actually. My grandmother is an alcohol connoisseur. She loves fine the finer things of drinking. You know what I mean? She's a woman. She was born in the 30s. She's from that culture. You know that old culture of like drinking good quality alcohol. And oh, it's 7% alcohol. That's what it says here. And she wanted to try this. So I got her 2 boxes of this stuff, and I took a few of them for myself. And I will say this is the best IPA I've ever tasted. Bottom line, this is the best tasting IPA ever. It is very good. Yeah, very good IPA. Samuel Adams. That's the next thing on my list. I got a case of Sapporo, Japanese beer, which I will be trying soon. Do you like Blue Moons? Blue Moons is good. I like the Blue Moon stuff. Best tasting beer. See, best tasting general beer, probably Coors. Not Coors Light, but Coors, real Coors. I like Coors. But then you have there's this other beer that I tried. It's called Saint Stephan German beer. They call it Stefana something. It's imported from Germany. I tried it on. I got a can and I tried it on here in one of my last live streams with you guys. That beer was amazing. Like it was imported from Germany, had a really good flavor, dark, sweet, rich flavor. It was excellent, excellent, excellent German beer. Which is better than Coors? The IPA? I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say it's better than Coors. No, I would still argue that Coors is better. I'm not too crazy about IPAs, but out of all the IPAs that I've consumed, this is the best IPA. It's very good. But Coors is probably the Yingling is good. Yingling, Yingling was the first beer that I consumed, and this was back in 2017. It was the first beer that I ever tried. Yingling is good. It's good. Because it was the first beer that I ever tried, it tasted really good when I first tried it. Because it was the first beer I ever had. But then I tried other beers. I tried Shiner, I tried Budweiser, I tried Modelo, Corona, Pacifico. I tried Dos Equis. Um, I've tried. I haven't tried Bush's. Is Bush good? Because Bush's beer, to me, it sounds. They sell like Bush beer when you go to the grocery store. It's always like in the end of the aisle, and they always give it to you in these big blue boxes, and it's almost like, and it's really cheap. Bush is really cheap. It's a cheap beer, and I'm wondering if that's the reason why it's so popular in the Midwest because it's cheap, or maybe it's just a cultural thing. I don't know, but it just seems like it's cheap stuff. And I haven't heard that many good things about Bush. But when you get Coors, not Coors Light. See, a lot of people say, "Oh, Coors is lousy," but they try Coors Light. Coors Light is lousy. Any light beer is garbage. But Coors, like real Coors, is a thick, nice, refreshing beer. I do like Michelob. Michelob is good. Um, but the best tasting beer I ever had was expensive though. It was the Stefana Saint Stefana German beer. Let me try to get the exact name for it. I don't want to misstate it here. Yes, here it is. It is this stuff here. Weihenstephaner. It's expensive. You can get a you can get a 6 bottle case, like a conventional 6 bottle case of West Stefana. Weihenstephaner. You can get you can go to like a liquor store or like a alcohol store or yeah. You're not going to find this at your local Target, okay? But you can find this at like any store that specializes in alcohol. Um, Weihenstephaner, this stuff is so good. Oh my gosh. It's very good beer. But you can get yourself a case. I got 1 bottle of it, and it was like, how much did it cost? It's like $6 for 1 bottle, but it was a big bottle. They sell it as a 6 beer case, 6 bottle case for $11. And that's pricey. For 6 bottles, it's pricey. But um, I tried one bottle of it. It was a really big bottle. It was excellent. The taste was just perfect. Crispness, little creaminess, thickness, refreshing, good carbonation. That rich dark flavor was there. It was just it was perfect. It was delicious. I had not tried Bush's. Maybe one day I'm gonna try it because I love trying new things. But the conventional beer that I like is Coors. I like Coors a lot. Um, Budweiser is also good. Budweiser is also good. Eat a little fatty something. Yeah, when it comes to alcohol, you gotta have a little bit some. You gotta have something heavy with it. You gotta have like fried eggs and some bacon and biscuits and gravy. Like that's the kind of stuff you gotta drink beer with. Or man, huevos rancheros, fried eggs on fried tortillas with cheese and hot sauce and onion and tomato. You know, it's delicious. With a cold beer, it's very good. Beer with steak is excellent. Hot dogs, very good. Hot dogs with, and I'm not talking about like some nonsense hot dogs that are like cooked in the microwave. I mean like hot dogs that have been grilled and you got like Dijon mustard, spicy mustard, hot chilies, maybe pickled chilies on it with raw onion and hot sauce and sauerkraut. You know, I really stack that hot dog up and have a couple hot dogs with a cold beer. It's perfect. 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 You see, the thing about beer is it's not just the alcohol. It's not just the alcohol. It's the taste. It's the texture. It's the cold temperature. The cold feeling that you get. It's that taste of a cold beer that really strikes you. It's not just, oh, there's alcohol in it. You know, if I was interested in just alcohol, then I would be drinking vodka. I'd be drinking tequila. I'd be drinking, I don't know, heavy stuff, heavy liquor, hard alcohol. I don't really drink that stuff. I don't like that stuff. I don't like vodka. Even though I've tried vodka, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of tequila. I'm not a fan of these things. I need a tequila. No, because it's just alcohol. It's just super bitter, nasty flavored alcohol. It doesn't taste good. But beer tastes really good. Sapporo, I got a case of Sapporo. Beer and hot dogs, man. Delicious. Oh, Colt 45. What is that? Is that a That's beer? Ooh la la. Malt liquor. It's a lager. Ooh, speckled hen. That sounds really funny. Speckled hen. Can I get that at a speckled hen? Can I get that at a Whole Foods? Speckled hen. I like that. I'm gonna try that out. Speckled hen. I gotta try this out. Old Speckled Hen. Last night I ate 8 eggs. 8. I did it like real old school French style. Put the eggs on a frying pan. 8 eggs. Put the eggs in a frying pan and add a little olive oil. High heat, Gordon Ramsay method. Mix, 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 off the heat. 15 seconds off the heat. 15 seconds on the heat. 15 seconds off the heat. And just before it gets to that nice creamy texture, 15 seconds off the heat. And then I just turn the stove off, put it back on the stove, and I immediately put raw onion, raw tomato, a little bit of butter, and a little bit of cheese, and you mix it in. Oh my gosh, so good. Fresh eggs from my chickens. Fresh eggs from my hens. And it was delicious. But I ate 8 eggs. There was 8 eggs in that. I woke up this morning feeling just like not even hungry. Like my body was still digesting it. It was crazy. It's probably not a good thing. Uh, JG, I don't want to discourage people from going to church. I mean, I guess I am discouraging people, but what I'm saying is that when you go to church, you're taking a Catholic church. You're taking that risk. You know, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Yeah, you see, but the tequila stuff, it's just alcohol, man. It's just alcohol. It's just, I don't know. I like that. I like the idea of drinking that like that fermented drink. Like I love fermented drinks. I love kvass and kombucha and beer. Like these are all from fermentation. And that fermentation just brings this wonderful natural flavor to it. It's really good. What are your plans for tomorrow? I gotta work. I'm trying to finish this article right now on. I'm actually doing an in-depth article investigating like how the Volyn massacre happened when the Ukrainian nationalists butchered all the Poles in eastern Galicia. So that's my plans. I want to finish this article, you know. Soju? What's soju? Oh, it's a beer. Oh, distilled Korean alcoholic beverage. Nice. Is that like beer or is it is it like a hard? Oh man, it's 53% alcohol. Forget that. This is some crazy stuff. This is like sake. Is this from rice? Korean beer. What happened? Okay, Anthony. Why are you asking me this question? You know the answer to that already. Never had sake? Out of all the hard alcohols out there, I think sake is okay. It has a decent taste. Kimchi is good. I like kimchi. JG, are you in the Catholic Church or what? Which group are you in? It doesn't really smell. So Anthony, you just decided to randomly ask this question out of nowhere. Just even though I've explained it numerous times. I don't believe you. Yeah, but kimchi is good. I like sauerkraut though. Sauerkraut, I like fermented stuff. Yogurt, any sort of probiotic, it's really good. I wouldn't ferment everything because sometimes you ferment something and it doesn't come out. Like I fermented kale one time and it wasn't that good. Yeah, wasabi. Wasabi is good. Store-bought wasabi is basically going to be horseradish mixed in with a little bit of wasabi, so they can legally say that it's wasabi, but it's not really wasabi. When you go to a proper Japanese restaurant, they're going to give you fresh wasabi, which is the only way that you can actually eat wasabi. Yeah, fermenting definitely has a limit. I do plan on one day making my own beer. For now, I'm just making kombucha, but I do plan eventually to make my own alcohol. Last day I went on, last date I went on was a couple of months ago, actually. I went on a date with a girl, but I didn't really click with her because she just, I don't know, she was telling me about her background and like her mom was a meth head and it's just too dysfunctional of a family. She was a pretty girl though, but it was just too much of a dysfunctional family. Anthony, Andrew got in trouble with the law, yeah. He got arrested and charged with child neglect. Does that answer your question? He got arrested and charged with child neglect, and we fired him because I'm not going to have someone who's been charged with that working for me. I've made my own alcohol before. It's not that difficult. But homemade alcohol, it can be a little bit rough around the edges when you drink it. Anyway, I'm not afraid to say it. We were very good with Andrew. We paid him well. We did all these things, but he worked with us for a number of years and he screwed up, got arrested, charged with a crime. I don't want people like that working for me. I don't want irresponsible people working for me. So I don't. I have no interest in having him work with me. That's just bottom line. I've made mead before, alcohol with honey, yeast and honey, and I use different fruits to make it. Anyway, guys, it's been almost 3 hours. Yeah, it was definitely a good call. I'm not gonna have somebody like that working for me. Yes, I was raised in the Baptist church. Yes, I have. I've made my own wine successfully, actually. But I've made fruit wine before, pear wine, pear and fig wine. The Weihenstephaner is excellent beer. Probably the best tasting beer I've ever tried, but it's pricey. It's pricey, but it has that. It's just perfect. There's probably some other stuff out there that's really good also. Anyway, there's fireworks going on right now. Happy New Year, Carl. Anyway, you guys, I'll see you all later. Any thoughts on how we're going to retake Constantinople? Yeah, you're gonna like hire everybody on 4chan to do it. Here's to a better year, Sister Tenacious. Absolutely. Happy New Year, Grand Celestial Night. All right, see you all later. Bye bye. See you guys later. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. Peace, y'all. Peace.